Good evening and welcome to the AV Experience. Jonathan Von Engel in Archaea on AVS Forum. Ryan said he'll be here shortly. He's doing an AV demo with one of his customers right now, a friend. So they'll be in there shortly. Going to get the conversation started tonight with these speakers that are right behind me. A guy that came to the Kansas City crawl was looking for some JBLs after he heard them in several of our rooms, and I had an extra pair that I'm going to sell him. These are them, and I also have another new one. These have the optional bass module. The 70J1 is the top, and actually in this case, they're oriented where the top is on the bottom. The part with the J curve is down here, and the top is the bass array module. It plays from 45 hertz to 1,000 hertz, and it's just meant to extend the bass a little bit and also just provide extra reinforcement so that you can have more SPL in your bass tones below 1,000 hertz. I tried these in my room instead of just having the tops like you can see everywhere around the room. I tried it in this array. I tried mixing the orientation. My ceiling height isn't really high enough to take advantage of this speaker. Let's see if I can show you. So each one of those speakers is about 28 inches tall. So the combined thing is getting pretty large for a typical basement. The problem is if you have the bass modules in a place where they're kind of like in any kind of alignment to your ear from your seating position, because they only play to 1,000 hertz, it's a little bit strange. Like you need to have room for them to resolve or have them very high or very low. That was my experience. If you're taking them outside and putting them on like a DJ pole or something at a live event, they sound fantastic with those bass modules attached. And then down to 45 hertz, you'll still want bass bins if you're going to do like dubstep or something, but that covers pretty much like acoustic guitar and that kind of thing. If I had a room with like 14-foot ceilings, I'd probably have a bass module on all of these different speakers, and I'd have the J center or the J curve one at the top, like near the top of the room, I would say. Maybe not at the very top. Let me rephrase. I would like to have raised my 70J1s from their current height, and the bass modules would be on the top, but the J series would be like at the bottom, like they are mounted here, but they would be elevated from where they are in my room. And the reason being that there's attenuation on these speakers. The bottom of the J is actually attenuated down. And then the top of the J is full strength SPL. And that accommodates, so like if you can see the speaker here, if it's high enough, the closest seats don't get blown out because the bottom speakers are attenuated on the curve, just like a professional concert. And the higher speakers on plane, those are sending out full SPL so that the farthest seats like here and here, like up here, get more SPL and the near seats don't get blasted. So that's the intent behind them. They're pretty cool design, sound fantastic when they're together if you've got enough room to resolve it. So that's a little intro to show and tell. What we've done this week, we were supposed to watch 28 Days Later. I watched a little bit of it. We'll get into that when Ryan comes. That's not for me. I got to like the first scene where there was some pretty brutal action and I turned it off. Like I just don't need that stress. Okay, so here we go. Reed Boys says, what's the longest you've gone with just leaving it as is, no additions to anything? That's a good question. Not very long, man. I'm constantly tinkering because I think the tinkering is part of the fun. So like I've been in this hobby since high school. And I'm always changing gear out and always have been changing gear out. I kind of get to a plateau on certain things and leave them alone. Like my subwoofers would be an example of that. When I had 818s, the only reason I got 3 more after I got those in 2014. So from 2014 to 2024, I had these same 8 subwoofers because they did everything I needed and there was like no real place to go. The only reason I got 3 more is not for more output. Like I don't need it. I'm happy with the subwoofers as is. But I got 3 more so that all my seats could have near field. So like there are certain plateaus I think you can reach where you're just kind of done. Like you've exhausted that characteristic of your home theater and you've never heard better. So you don't really know where to go, or maybe you've heard louder, but you don't need that. I think that's a very much a truism that you can come across. I'm on the same place with my speakers. I really love these JBL CBTs. I've had them since 2017 and I have no plans to change them out either. Like there's nothing on the horizon that would make me switch. I really like them. So for bass and speakers, I'm settled. For projectors, I'm still tinkering. I got a couple of them set up there. The the JVC NZ700. I'm sorry, NZ500 and the QL3000, and I've still been testing them back and forth. I mean, we'll switch them out. I watched a couple movies last week. One was with the JVC and one was with the Epson. So plenty of opportunity there to still play. There's not a sure winner on that. I think Projector technology still has like a couple different avenues you can go down, and one's not necessarily better than the other, but they're very different than the other. And there's not, without spending buku dollars, there's not really like a winner takes all type product in that category for me. So yeah. 28 days later sucks, K-Man says. I'll wait to talk about that with Ryan, but I didn't get far enough to have an opinion on it. just far enough to realize this is not something I want to watch and have in my memory and be thinking about while I'm trying to go to sleep and the next day and stuff. Like, that's just, yeah, that's not for me. Too intense, too scary, too dark. So yeah, Ryan, some of us like to tinker in the garage just as much as with the car. You're kind of covered up here, but I can read basically what you're saying. I agree. It is just like the car, or the car performance audio stuff can be just like performance car stuff, where you just enjoy the journey, like you just enjoy playing with stuff. There's no real done, much to my wife's chagrin, because I'm sure she would like me to be done. As far as movies, we watched Harry Potter, the first movie, and my kids are wanting to watch the second one tonight. We watched that. I started that with the Epson QL3000. We switched over to the JVC. That's an example of a candidate that's better on the JVC because of how black that movie is. The Epson was really, really bright. I think I talked about that a little on the last podcast. Really, really, really bright, but the black levels are more important in that particular movie. And then we just watched, what's the Paddington Bear, the Trip to Peru, or Road to Peru. That movie was fantastic on the QL3000. Like, we started on the QL3000 and I kept it there and I loved every minute of it. It looked gorgeous on that. It's a very bright and colorful movie. Lots of like daylight jungle scenes and vivid colors, and fantastic for that particular movie. So yeah. It's fun to have both styles. I'm actually kind of thinking I probably shouldn't. I was considering just selling the JVC, but it's kind of nice to have both options present. So I may end up keeping the JVC on the side. I gotta figure out how to get rid of that QR code because I can't read through it. Can I hide it? Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's going to be my next question. The wife has been married since 1988. She's patient, but her patience isn't unlimited as far as continually adding stuff. I hear you. That's a little bit of a battle, I think, and kind of have to make a truce out of it instead of a battle. I think part of it is like the way it works for me is like, this is kind of my area down here. Megan doesn't really care what I do down here, and I don't really try to enforce what I do upstairs. So we've talked about that on the podcast before. Like, I don't have a system in the living room. I don't have a system in the bedroom. Megan doesn't want that. Like, she says, like, keep your home audio stuff contained. So I've dressed up this room. I really enjoy it down here, but in the in the living room, I have some little like 3-inch Polk Audio little speakers. They're tiny little things with like a 1-inch tweeter and a 3-inch driver or something. And then no center channel or anything. It's just a left-right little Polk, and then a 65-inch TV. So pretty mundane in the living room, and we don't even have a system in the bedroom. So this is my home theater area. So that kind of keeps some of that at bay, where I'm not constantly trying to tear up her house or tear up where she likes to make the home. Like, women kind of like to have that avenue where they would invite people over and not see something like this with their guests that come over, because they may or may not understand this, and their friends may or may not understand this. So this is kind of out of sight, out of mind a little bit. And then as far as the financial aspect of it, we've talked about that before too. Like, we've long ago established fund money, and that works out super well. And especially for someone who's young and getting into marriage, someone gave me that advice, and it saved us so many arguments over the years. I'll just briefly say, like, a certain percentage of the income comes into my fund money account, and a certain percentage of income comes into her fund money account. And then, like, bonuses, a little aspect of that goes in too. And that's hands-off money for the other person to make any kind of financial decision. Like, that money is how I can, it's kind of like, some people would call it blow money. It's like, whatever you want to spend it on, it's not critical for the rest of your responsibilities. Like, you're saving in normal things, you're tithing in normal things, you're paying for your medical, your health, like, all your responsibilities are covered, and this is excess. And so this is like bookmarked for that. You can play with it. And then over the course of time, like I said, I've been in this hobby since high school. As you upgrade something and you kind of peel off the next thing and sell it, I don't keep things around. Usually I sell them off. So, that's how you kind of fund the next upgrade. Yeah. Yeah. Read boys. That's it. I mean, there could be, and I know a lot of people in this hobby are like, I hear people all the time at trade shows and stuff saying like, "Hey, I can't tell my wife about this at all because she'll get real mad. I have a little like secret account over here and that's not the, I mean, I'm just going to be honest. That's not the way to do it. That doesn't establish trust with your partner. Like Megan knows what I buy, tell her what I buy. I often talk to her and see what she thinks about something I buy. She doesn't care. But as long as I stay in my lane and just use my fun money account, um, there's not a fight there. There just isn't a fight there. There might be more of a fight about how loud the bass is if we're watching a movie or I have a group of friends over, but not on the home theater stuff. So let me kind of catch up here a little bit. No system in the bedroom, blasphemy. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Someone that's same kind of advice when I first was married. Somebody said keep the TV out of the bedroom. Um, I think that's probably a decent sentiment, so that if you're in the bedroom, you're talking to your wife or interacting with your spouse and not distracted. That would be me. I'd be distracted if there was a TV in there. We've thought about it, adding it, but at this point, we've been married for 20 years too, and it just never has been a thing. So it's okay. Like we'll watch a movie down here, or we'll watch a show on the couch upstairs, and then retire to the bedroom, and the bedroom doesn't have the entertainment. Yeah, yeah. So Fencer says, I find the difficulty is when you add pieces over time, models change, trying to get the exact same match is difficult unless you buy everything at once, especially with speakers. You're right, Finster, but the used market, I mean, unless you're getting something boutique, you can get used market stuff and usually keep okay on that track. So like eBay or Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or that kind of thing. I've had real good luck with that, kind of matching things up. Maybe you have to be careful that you don't get something that someone blew and is trying to unload. But Facebook Marketplace kind of took care of that somewhat because it's not as anonymous. Like you can look up their history on Facebook basically and make sure that they're a valid seller and not out to get you. So let's go down. I'm kind of gonna catch the chat here and see if I missed anything. No, that's about it. So yeah, thanks for joining, guys. I see some names in here that I know from each week. Fun to see. Here, Gary Pye says, so Paddington and 28 days later. That's quite the spectrum. Yeah. Well, I am clearly much more on the Paddington side than the 28 days later side. Because like I said, I only made it about 20 minutes in and I was like, yeah, this is not for me. So scrolling down. Yeah. Reed Boy says, yeah, he's got no sound in the bedroom, but a TV in the room and watches a little bit. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's cool if it works out for you. Just I understand both sides of that. It says projector is used, receiver is used, 4 speakers are used, 3 seats are used. Excellent, man. That's exactly how I've done a lot of my stuff is used gear. All these CBTs that I have in my room, except for these ones I'm selling, ironically, all these CBTs that I have in my room, I got in a package deal of at least for 13 of them on eBay. Somebody was selling, I've told this story before, they were selling 34 of them on eBay that they'd used in a race. And I had a alert set up on eBay since like 2012 or 2014 or something. When I first heard these speakers in the cinema and really liked them. And that alert fired, it was in the area and he had a bunch of them. And I asked him, hey, can we make a deal on 13 of them? And I got them for a little under 500 a piece. So that was a chunk of money, but not outrageous. I mean, it was reasonable, like I'd been saving for a long time watching for something like that. And these were one of several speakers I had my eyes on. These have proved out to be my choice, like my preference. But I had another set of JTR I was interested in and really liked and had an eye on, but I never really found a good deal on those. And the surrounds and stuff are very expensive for those. And frankly, for my room and my taste, I think these serve me better. Okay, so here we go. Oh man, Ernie Bless, no chance you like Event Horizon. I watched Event Horizon in high school, and I still can remember how scary that movie was. That I own it. I bought it on DVD for some reason. I don't know that I've ever watched it. I'm not sure I would ever watch it again, but I have the DVD, and that is quite possibly the scariest movie I've ever seen. there's sort of a difference some way in my mind. Like the original Alien, I like that movie. It's not quite horror and gore and dark as in some of these other ones are. Like maybe there's a difference between kind of a fright and something that just seems kind of oppressive or evil intent or like just too far. And Event Horizon is on that too far thing for me. Like sure, it's got a lot of the elements that might be an Alien, but it's just on a different level. Like it's dealing with themes of hell and torture and Satan, and I believe in good and evil, and I believe in God and Satan, and I don't like to dabble in the evil side of things, if that makes any sense. So SDE Kelly has a question. Hi, Jonathan. I have a couple questions this evening. First is, what do you think of the MoFi source point 888 and other source point 8 or 10 speakers as possible home theater speakers? I don't know, Kelly. Let me look this up and see what I find here. I'll see if I can share my screen, and then we'll go look at it together. Share screen. Let's do a window. Let's do this, actually. Let me get a new tab up. We'll share it. And then I got my Chrome tab. Okay, you should be able to see what I see, so let's look it up. We're talking about MoFi source point 888. MoFi source, look there. Okay, let's see what we got. I've never heard these, for what it's worth. Let's go to the specifications. Soft dome tweeter, 1.25, so it's a little bigger than the standard 1-inch tweeter. Soft domes are not SPL monsters. 1.25 may or may not do it, depending on your room. I like mid-range of 8-inch. 2 8-inch woofers is great. Power rating is not very high, actually. 30 to 200 watts. For those size drivers means these are pretty lightweight drivers. Sensitivity is particularly low. Impedance is 6 ohms. That doesn't make any difference. Your receiver will be able to drive it, or your amp won't care. 96 pounds is nice. Probably a pretty sturdy cabinet. So if you have a kind of a smaller room and you want an audiophile type listening experience, these are probably just fine. Pretty pricey. Pretty proud of them at $5,500 for a pair. I would want to see a compression test on them with a soft dome 1.25-inch tweeter if you're going to be trying to have cinema dynamics. We talk about that a lot on the show here. A lot of times a soft dome is not up to the task. And we've given specific examples in the past, so I won't go into that right now. If you want an example, look at my Arndal review that I did about a year ago. The tweeter will start compressing and not do dynamics a lot of times with a soft dome. What you might be looking more for would be like a compression driver or several tweeters in some cases, if you want that dynamic peak from there. And some people don't care. We also talk about this. It may not even matter too much depending on your age and your hearing thresholds. So as you age, this is not something that anyone can do anything about. As you age, you're going to lose sensitivity to the higher frequencies. And like when you're 18 years old, you might hear up to 18,000, 20,000 hertz. Maybe even by that time you started losing it. By the time you're 60 years old, a lot of times you can't hear above like 10,000 hertz. Like you just can't hear it. It's so attenuated from the hearing loss that happens over age. No matter how well you take care of your ears, that's going to happen to you as a man. Women keep their hearing a little bit longer than men, but that happens to you as a man. And so I am middle-aged. I'm 46. I have done my tests, and I'm probably in the like 14 to 15,000 hertz is where my hearing dies off right now. And that's pretty typical. I mean, it's not good or bad. It's just kind of the way our scale goes. So when I'm talking about the tweeter compressing, it's going to become less and less an issue as we age, which is kind of ironic, right? Because a lot of times people spend a lot more money when they're older, thinking that they need that extra like quality sound, and our ears just fail over time, simply put. So like by the time you're 60 years old or 65 years old, retirement, you try to buy yourself an audiophile speakers, you're getting more capability. You can't even hear it because you're going to be limited to like 10 or 12,000 hertz and below. And where I'm going with that is that's kind of where the compression is on these tweeters a lot of times, is at those real high frequencies, that if you're older, it just doesn't even matter. And if you're younger, you might care and you might not. Some people might think those kind of frequencies are harsh, especially in like a cinema thing if you're playing a reference, because it can get loud, and it's supposed to. Like the chain rattling thing, I always give an example over the shotgun, or the pistol shot, the crack, the high frequency stuff. Okay, so yeah. So in summary, I I don't think that's a bad choice if it's something that you're very interested in. I think it's not a cinema speaker per se. It's more of an audiophile speaker, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's your preference. I would probably, for that money, personally direct you more towards a cinema speaker, but that's just my subjective preference and my bent, right? It's not telling you right or wrong. It's just my
Well, you're obviously
lean.
wrong.
Oh, hey, there he is. Let me stop
Sorry about
sharing.
being late. Had somebody over from Nebraska Furniture Mart, and they wanted to see the theater, so took him through a demo, and he got here late.
Yeah, you could have
So
brought him on the podcast if it was who I think it might be. Is it who I think it might be?
Scotty,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I could have, but I didn't want to put him. Like, I don't like putting people on the spot. Hey, you want to go stream to a bunch of people and live out in, forever online, because it never goes away? I didn't
Scotty
want to
seems
do
like
that.
good people. I've talked to him
He
several
is a good
times.
guy. I do like him. I like Scotty. So he was over here doing the theater, and it's different since you got here. I changed the bass curve because it was a little anemic since you were there.
You know, one of the questions earlier tonight was, how long do you leave something alone? And case in point, like I was over there like, what, a week ago, and you're already like, I changed it.
It's now back to because things blew up, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
before that happened, I didn't touch things in a long time, but now I've gotten things back to where I think I'm happier with everything. So
Mhm.
I'm not going to touch it now. I say that and I'll touch it next week or something stupid, but I'm comfortable where I'm at now. I like the bass. Imagine Dragons was my benchmark, and I'm like, this isn't doing what it was doing, and I've got it back to what it was doing. So I'm good. I'm happy.
Yeah, well, you turned that 50 up a dB or two, and you got it back to where you had it, right?
Well, it was more than that. There was a bunch of phase problems. There was all kinds of stuff going on. So it was not, oh, just turn the 50 up a little bit. It was not that. It was, I had drivers that were unhappy fighting each other. And what's a long time, Red One Boys? It's sometimes 30 minutes, maybe could be considered a long time. Depends on who you are. There were times where I'm like, I'm done. And then 45 minutes later, I think, I don't like that. And then I had just taken the microphones out, and the microphones come right back into measure again.
Yeah.
So have you changed anything recently?
No, not really.
What is happening with the speakers?
I just put them up for fun and show like a little intro thing. These are the ones that Gate Stick's coming to pick up
You're
this
going to
week.
forget that they're there, and you're going to turn around and walk right into one.
Knock one down.
It'll be like the Epson.
You know what I think I'm going to do with these before I get rid of them to Gate Stick? Everyone has asked for years, and I've just never done it because I always decline. But they've asked for years to see how these things would work in a horizontal fashion instead of a vertical fashion. And that's way outside of the design element, right? They're 27 degrees vertical dispersion, 150 degrees horizontal dispersion. So on its face, it's a bad idea. Plus, because of the array and the length of it, you could actually get some comb filtering. Now, how noticeable that is anyone's guess. But I've always kind of declined and said that's not really the orientation. Like if you're trying to lay them horizontal, like get a different speaker. Well,
Yeah.
since they're here, and all I have to do is lay them down and put them on top of my Substack, I might as well try it. So I think I'll do that tomorrow. I think I'll do that and just have an answer for anyone that asks.
And then what'll happen is on Sunday, Jonathan's gonna send me a picture, and all of his speakers are gonna be sideways.
I was just thinking, what if I absolutely love it? I'm like, this is the best audio clarity I've ever heard.
This is amazing.
And then Gate Stick drives over. I'm like, nah, I can't.
I'm just gonna get 3 dots from Jonathan. That's all I'm gonna get. Just a text message, just 3 dots. And the next thing is gonna be a picture, and all the speakers will be sideways. People talk about how comb filtering's bad, and I love it. I love the way comb filtering sounds.
Oh man.
It's like that guy that's saying, how long's a long time? He knows us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think at this point the questions are almost like mocking us half the time, which is
Probably.
fine. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I hate that one side of my face is dark because one of my lights won't turn on.
Oh, that's actually podcasting 101. It's supposed to be a good thing to have like that shadow element. Makes
Yeah,
you
but I feel
mysterious.
like I don't know. Mysterious? I'm not mysterious.
Speaking of a couple things, I want to. We watched Paddington Bear, the Trip to Peru or Road to Peru. It's a really fun movie.
We
I
were
really
supposed to watch 28
I
Days Later. We
I
watched
already
Paddington the
kind of
Bear.
like I I couldn't do it, man. All right, let me switch Paddington Bear real quick.
Okay.
In the Paddington Bear, there's an how do I do this without giving it away? Not probably that a lot of people are lining up to see it.
I don't think many people are lining up to see
It's
Paddington. I've heard it's a good movie, though.
Paddington 1 and 2 is awesome, and the first 20 or 30 minutes of this one was like, "Oh, no, they lost the magic." And then Antonio Banderas comes in, and he's like, that guy just oozes charisma, like, oozes it. If you could physically touch charisma, he's got it. So, like, the movie, like, really kicks up when he comes in, and it has the magic recaptured from the first couple movies.
Mhm.
Fantastic series, A+, recommend them. At any rate, there was a funny nun in there that kept using the word suspicious, and she was like a nun, like a reverend mother, and somebody was challenging her on like using the word suspicious, and she goes, "Well, the Lord moves in suspicious ways," and they're like, "That's not that's not how the verse goes. It's mysterious ways," and all the kids in my family laughed. It's just, but maybe an insider reference, but
Suspicious.
just
Yeah.
funny, like just funny off the wall little things like that. Okay, so 28 Days Later.
I
You
knew
did
this was gonna happen. I
I
knew this was gonna happen.
I started watching it. I turned it off because it was too scary for me. Like, frankly, just not my thing. Too dark, too scary. I went upstairs. I went to bed. A couple days later, I thought this was earlier in the week. A couple days later, I thought, all right, I'll try to watch it again because Ryan's going to tease me. I'll try to
Mm.
watch it again on my phone with my earbuds. I watched till and this is pretty early in the movie, so I'm not even going to worry about spoiling anything. I watched till the friends basically just hacked one another to death. Like, he got cut, infected.
Yeah, when they're
She
in,
just
like, the
starts,
convenience
like,
store. Yeah.
destroying him with a machete, and this is, like, 20 minutes in, and I'm like, "Click." I can't do it. I don't wanna fall asleep with this on my head. I don't wanna think about this in the future. Like, I'm out. So, sorry, I didn't do this
I
one.
knew
So,
that was gonna happen.
it's gonna have to be you, man. It's gonna have to
I
be you.
hated it. Hated it, and for
Why? I
some
thought you said
reason
you liked this. Was this one you had watched before and said you liked?
I
Just been a
no,
while?
I was watching it because I wanna watch 28 Years Later,
The new
which
one.
is the new one. I don't know why I wanted to watch the new one. I'm not sure, because now I'm kind of regretting my decision to make us watch this movie, and I'm such a masochist. I thought to myself, I really hated the first movie. Why don't I watch the second one? So I watched the second one too. And I was like, "Oh, it's gotta be it wasn't. It wasn't any better. It wasn't any better."
All right, so I'm curious about this, and this is probably gonna be embarrassing. I shouldn't even bring this up. I'm not like a scared person. I'll go down in the basement or whatever outside. I'm not that type of person. But if
The
I
fact
watch
that that was your analogy.
yeah, but if I watch something like this
Yeah.
and I'm walking up the stairs from my basement, all of a sudden I'm like looking over my shoulders and feeling like creeped out and so forth. Like, inevitably with horror movies, like, it gives me a perception of like something I don't like. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to be alone watching a horror movie. And
Yeah.
little imagination runs wild, all that kind of stuff. Like, whatever it is, it it's not comfortable to me. And
I get
maybe
that.
I'm curious if that's something you deal with at all. Like, if you come up from your theater, you're watching that alone. Are you
Mm,
looking over your shoulder, like walking up the
no.
stairs backwards?
I mean, maybe if it was a really good movie that was really well done, but this movie was not that movie. It was so bad, and it was it was so bad, but it was also amazing at how many big names were in this movie that were in it before their careers took off.
It has a very good Rotten Tomato score. I looked it up. 28 days. 28 days later. Yeah.
I
28
mean,
days is a Sandra Bullock film. I should have watched that instead.
I wait, you get on and we're talking about 2 completely different movies. I'm talking
It's
about
real
somebody,
romantic. I
like,
really liked it.
ripping people apart, and you're like, "I don't know, I don't know if we have the same definition of what romance is," and
That would have been funny. I should have done
but
that anyway.
it was just so predictable, and then the second movie, maybe I'm being too critical on it because of how old they are. They're not new movies. I mean, they're old.
There's old ones that are fantastic. I told you I
I
watched Jurassic Park the other day, and it was fantastic,
Yeah,
and it's
you're
old.
right. They're just bad. I didn't like them. Like, I'm comparing them. My benchmark for a horror thriller is something like A Quiet Place, and the candle's not even lit in comparison. Like, these are if A Quiet Place was the sun, this candle that these could be is not even lit. They're
Yeah.
I did not enjoy them. I didn't
Well, I
find them
mean, from the
scary.
beginning that I saw, it didn't seem the first part didn't seem like low production value or anything. It looked like a nice cityscape that was all deserted, and
Oh, I'm sure.
the
Yeah,
church full of people that chased him out of there and stuff. That
yeah,
all looked like legit.
yeah.
Well, what was bad? What's so bad about it? Like, the acting got worse? Like, there
I
wasn't any even really acting. It was a guy walking around finding dead people and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't resonate with me.
Hmm.
Don't know. Didn't like it. I got I don't have anything positive to say about
You
either of
didn't Were you thrilled? Did it raise your endorphins?
them. Were you thrilled?
I mean, did it like that's the whole point of it. It quickens your heart and all that stuff. Did that not happen to you? You're just
No, not
like
at
a
all.
log sitting there, not even
I
affected
was.
by it?
Yep, I absolutely was. Like, if so were you thrilled?
Yeah, I mean, like,
I've
I'm telling
never
you,
heard
it
that.
makes me so, like, nervous and freaked out, I don't even wanna
Oh,
watch it, and you're over there, like,
no.
falling asleep, apparently.
No, it wasn't captivating at all. It didn't pull me in, it didn't do any of that. 28 Days Later, or not 28 Days Later, A Quiet Place 2, and A Quiet Place Dead One Day 1, they pulled me in. Like, I was engrossed. This was not engrossing. It was I don't know what it was. I was not thrilled
Did
at
you
all.
like I'm curious, where this goes. Did you watch Walking Dead? Did you like Walking Dead?
I liked Walking Dead at the beginning.
I really liked it at the beginning.
I liked Walking Dead. The first couple seasons were great, but they were great because they were dark. Then it just got really it's like it forgot what it was at the beginning and it moved off into some other direction, and the darkness A Walking Dead was kind of almost a horror movie at the beginning.
I think what was interesting to me about it was, like, the humanity of it, like, figuring out how
Mm,
you would handle it, and I liked the first few seasons because you could kind of align I could align behind Rick. When Rick started going, like, sideways, neutral, and then even just, like, preemptively killing people because he knew they were gonna be bad, like, I lost interest in the show because there was no I mean, this is just how I work. There was no, like, ethical or moral character to kind of identify with and stand behind. And
mhm.
I mean, I at that point, I don't wanna root for or follow or something that people are just like that Rick's band is just as bad as the next band. Like, they're
Yeah,
all evil people at that point, and I
yeah,
lost interest at that point.
it there was so I think you bring up a really good point and a big reason to why I didn't like these 2 movies. I didn't have an emotional connection to any of the characters. With The Walking Dead, when it first started, like you said you did, I felt like I could emotionally relate to Rick.
Mhm.
Like, I had an emotional investment in what was going on. There was conflict that Rick had to face and that the other characters had to face. I didn't feel any of that in these movies. It was just
Mhm.
kind of one thing after another. There was one part at the beginning of the second one where the husband just bails on his wife, and they didn't make it wasn't emotional. Like, you could just tell, yeah, he's just gonna leave her. And there wasn't I didn't feel any emotion towards it. How they portrayed it just didn't resonate with me. And maybe it resonated with somebody else. It just wasn't my things. Like you said, it got a really good rating. It just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you liked the beginning seasons of Walking Dead, but
They
you
were dark, but I think it was more like almost like a psychology study to me. Like, it's things that I had never really had thought about, explored out, fleshed out pretty strongly. Like,
Mhm.
I identified, I aligned with all the moral characters, and of course they all got killed off pretty early. Like, I think in the first season was a Dale, and then it was the farmer guy. Like, the people who said, like, morals are more important than life. Like,
Mhm.
that's where I fall out. And those people all got killed, which is probably
You have
telling,
morals, you're gonna die.
and probably what would happen to me in that kind of situation too, because I'm just not. I mean, Megan and I have had that conversation as well. If the worst came to worst, and a nuclear strike happened, or a chemical strike happened, or EMP strike happened, we have some preparation stuff. We've taken some time to do that. Are we willing? I shouldn't even say this on air. 20,000 people are going to know they can come take advantage of me. But I'm not going to kill someone for food supply. I'm not going to kill someone because they come to my garden and eat. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't do that. I'm not that type of person. So if that meant the destruction of my property, the destruction of like, that's a line I won't cross.
Mhm.
And it's hard for me to relate to someone that would cross that line. So immediately in that 28 days, she's hacking up her friend because he gets a cut. Like, I'm not hacking up my friend immediately before, especially before he turns. He hadn't even turned or anything, right? She's
Mhm.
like, "Yep, your blood." No, that's like, you're like serial killer weirdo stuff at that point. Like, wait until they turn at least.
Wait until he's a zombie, 'cause then he's not a person anymore, then you can kill him.
I don't
I
know.
know what you mean. I feel there was no emotional connection. I think you hit it, and that's why I didn't feel these movies. So we gonna watch the 28 Years later
No,
next?
no, I'm out of that series. I'm not
Alright.
watching any
Alright,
more
fine. You pick one. What do you wanna
Final
watch?
Destination Front Bloodlines. I'm not watching any more of that stuff either.
You've had a bad go of it the past couple weeks.
You guys pick
Few
crap.
weeks. I didn't pick that. You picked Final
I
Destination. That was
didn't
not
pick it.
me.
It was the only option in the premium
Oh,
theater. It was a bad
oh.
choice.
Adam says Jonathan would cross that line if someone started looking at his subwoofers.
Look out, Adam. Yeah, you come over here.
Oh, what do you want the next movie to be then?
I don't know, man. Let's think about that and come back to it. Maybe we get some suggestions from the audience here.
I had a random thought, something completely opposite. What about something like Iron Giant?
I like that one. I haven't seen it in a long time. That might be fun. I don't know if my kids have seen it even, the young ones
Way
especially.
different animated, old animation style. Uh, maybe try something like that, something different. And I don't
Iron Giant has a cult following, and I'm not sure I'm in that cult following. I watched it before, but I didn't think it was as good as some people say it is. I'll
no,
watch
but
it
it's
again.
good. It's a good movie. It's not a
Is
bad
it one of
movie.
your favorites?
No. But just because it's not one of my favorites doesn't mean it's not a good movie. I mean, a lot of movies aren't my favorite, but I Mark like on Letterbox. Ryan Kramer says that's a great one. Josh Damon says Last Starfighter. We could watch
I don't think I've seen Last Starfighter as I
what are
should have.
those? We could watch Iron Eagle.
I don't even think I've heard of that one.
If you could make imagine you had a sea like a sea movie that was trying to be Top Gun. That's what Iron
No,
Eagle is.
I don't want to watch any movies that are, like, intentionally a C-rated movie.
Oh, it's not I don't think it's intentional. It's really bad. Really bad. And then there's,
No.
I think, 5 of them.
No, here's what I've determined over 20 years in this hobby, 25 years in this hobby. The time is better spent than watching movies you know are crap. Like, I'm not doing it.
They can be fun.
Unless you're Mystery Science Theater 3000 in it, I'm not in.
We watched Battlefield Earth.
That was fun. When you No, I thought you were gonna talk about Tremors when we watched it together and we're kinda making fun of it. I'll do that. That's fun and
Okay, well, let's watch
enjoyable.
Iron Eagle together. Let's not. It's so bad. So bad. Sharknado?
Never seen it.
You've never seen.
No, I tell you, I deliberately try to avoid movies that like are obviously going to be terrible.
I mean, what do
Sharknado
you
is in
think
that category.
Sharknado's about?
A tornado that brings sharks on land and they bite people. That's the guess, right, from the trailer. Is that not true?
It's a tornado full of sharks.
That's super dumb. I just will avoid it from
It's
the
like
get-go.
snakes on a plane. I mean, what do you think the movie's about?
That movie
Can't
is
be
terrible
snakes on a
too.
plane. Can't
Terrible
be.
movie.
Can't be. All right. Well, we'll stew on Iron Giant. If anybody has, we could any other suggestions on what to watch, I'm all for it. There were some comments, and then chat kind of blew up. Said Silly Llama says respect to Jonathan for being honest, even though Ryan can't stop.
I know.
And then Ben Fitz says, "Does Two Face have a room tour with the 50-inch sub?"
Nice.
Oh, it's not gonna. I can't get it. I can't make it cover half my face. Darn it. Oh well. There we go. I was looking the wrong way. I don't know left from right. Maybe eventually. We'll see where that goes. I don't know. I don't like talking about like videotaping my own room. Feels weird. Bruce Barnes. Bruce has been working on his front wall, his baffle wall, and he says nothing like having to watch you guys as an image on my speakers and pink fluffy because I don't have my screen on. Have you ever done that? Have you ever watched something on pink fluffy?
No.
Can't say
No,
you've
but
done
I
that.
watched something on like a wall, like even with the border. What's this called? This board at the bottom. I can't think of the name of it. Where it's splitting the difference and it's half on
Wainscoting?
drywall and half on wainscoting. Yeah, I've done that. It's not great.
It's not great. Well, I can
Wouldn't
imagine.
recommend it.
I can imagine. Colors may be representing in different ways in
Yeah.
different parts there.
Yeah. The Daniel Craig James Bond has amazing bass and no one ever talks about them. Suspect, you're right. Actually, I agree with you 100%. Especially the intro that's like a carnival or something in one of those has amazing intro. Like it's really
Carnival.
really well done. They're in costume and he's running around through a carnival or one of them. I don't even remember which one it was, but I remember the music being extremely good on that.
Do you know which movie it was?
No, JTM. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing.
Take your speakers apart, Jonathan. It's for science.
You know, to your point though, I had considered that if I ever get a big OLED like we've talked about on here, that I would consider, because the crossover divides this into pieces, making my own custom speaker and using the crossover from two different speakers that basically make one. So could potentially do that, but I'm not doing it with these. Sorry.
You could make a sound bar out of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put them end to end with the J curve. Yeah. That's what I'm going to do. A giant, like 80-inch home filtering nightmare center channel that I'm probably going to fall in love with is what's going to happen.
So what's your center channel? It's just comb filtering. That's all it is. It's nothing else. Looks at a frequency response and it's just like, just all over the place. Just peaks, valley, peak, just awfulness.
Yeah. Well, it'll probably sound great on like one or two actors. Everyone else will sound like crap.
Or it'll sound phenomenal to you. Turns out we've been missing it the entire time.
Anthony says something here. I just finished a 3-hour, and this is maybe not where you're at, but 3 long 14-hour days on the home theater. Big aesthetic changes. You have to tell us more, man. You just gave us a little hint here. Tell us more.
That's big. Come on, you can't say all that and then not provide any sustenance. It's not fair. What do you guys think of Denis Villeneuve being the new director of the next James Bond movie? I don't know enough about directors or actors to know anything about that.
I don't
know. Jonathan?
No, not about him particularly. I wouldn't even know what other movies he'd done without looking it up.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know, I don't watch trailers. I don't read anything about movies. I don't do any of that.
You think Best Choice would give us a sponsorship if I showed this on here like that? Is that possible?
blown out orange can.
Best choice if you're listening.
If you're listening, I can blow out your can more. Hold it further back.
My camera's too crappy.
It's like, hey, I can't see anything. Let me show you. I can't see it. I can't see it. What's that say?
Oh man. All right. Christian says he did Dune. Dune's fantastic.
Dune is fantastic.
They did a great job with that one. The audio video is all great.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Okay. I can get behind that. Oh, we did Arrival too.
I liked Arrival.
I loved Arrival. I remember going into Arrival, and this goes back to me not knowing anything about movies before I watched them. I knew nothing about Arrival. Nothing. Didn't know what I was going to get.
The title told you something. You knew something.
Well, I saw like the movie poster, and then that was it. So I knew it was something about aliens, and they arrived. They weren't departing; they were arriving. So I knew that. But that's all I knew. Phenomenal movie. I think they're more enjoyable to me. Now, with something like 28 Days Later, I wish that I knew nothing going in and then knew nothing going out because I didn't watch it. I think wish I was like Jonathan and didn't pay attention to it.
Oh man.
But Arrival was great. So if that's the case, then I think we're
Arrival. If I'm thinking of right, it was Jodie
Natalie
Foster.
Portman.
No,
wasn't it Natalie Portman? Or am I thinking of Annihilation? I think I'm thinking of Annihilation.
I think it's Jodie Foster.
Is it Jodie Foster? Whoever it was,
where the aliens are riding with their little tentacles in the fog. I think it is.
Yeah, and they're trying to communicate.
Yeah. That's Jodie Foster. Okay. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. Who is that? That doesn't look like Jodie Foster.
I don't know who it is. You're telling me who it is.
Amy Adams. I don't remember her being in there.
Did you watch it?
I watched it. Yeah, I remember the little tentacle.
Or did you see the aliens and tentacles and just go, nope, turned it off?
No, I liked that one. That one.
Revisit it a week later with your phone and your earbuds. You're like, I can't go to sleep thinking about aliens, and unplugged it and turned it off.
No.
See, what Jonathan just told us, and what he doesn't want anybody to know, is that's actually how he watches all of his movies. He only watches demo content on the big screen.
No, I've told you before. I turned down the volume over and over and over and over on a scary movie till I'm like turning on subtitles and like straining to hear. That's how I get through a scary movie.
You get scared because your phone's like this.
So to be honest, even with the dang phone in my earbuds, I had turned the volume down so low I couldn't hear the dialogue anymore, and I had to turn it up like one tick to hear the dialogue because I don't want a jump scare to make it. Even on the phone, it makes me jump. I am weak.
Maybe I'm just numb to it. I don't know, but
Paul says Amy Adams looks like Jodie Foster on your phone size screen. All right, touche.
Fair enough. But I'm convinced that you don't watch anything but demo clips in your theater. And I
watch movies.
I think what happens is you have your family come down and you're like, we're going to watch this movie, and you turn on and you have the intro and everything, and then you turn off the projector and you say, all right, guys, it's time to take out your phones. And everybody's just sitting there watching on the phone.
No, I watch movies. That's terrible.
Okay. Chat is chatty tonight. I'm trying to keep track of everything. We're still on the topic of the director for who's coming to James Bond. Who's going to be the next James Bond? Do we know that?
I mean, why are they losing the last director? I don't even know who that was. I don't
know who it was either. He did a great job.
Yeah,
Daniel Craig Bonds are fantastic.
I agree.
I think Daniel Craig was a fantastic Bond.
I agree. I'm sad to see him go. Although the last one got a little ridiculous with how many, like, he had invincibility through bullets. Like, there was so many people shooting at him and they couldn't hit him at all. Like, over the top.
He had a meeting with John Wick.
Might have been worse than John Wick.
It wasn't that bad.
It
he didn't get hit by 15 cars and
pretty bad.
Fall out of a building from multiple floors up and then die dramatically at the very end on the stairs that he fell down before for 30 minutes. I had something I was going to say, and then I forgot. I enjoyed the last one, the last James Bond. Thought it was a great movie.
Where you said that he died?
Yeah. Did he
Or
die?
did you think it was a fitting? Did you watch the last James Bond movie? Yes, of course he
several
died.
years.
That was his closing chapter.
Oh,
They were in that concrete bunker base, and the weapons came down on him. Like he was.
Oh, that's right. I did enjoy it. I thought it was a good closing. Like it is okay for movies and series to end. That's okay. You don't
James
have to
Bond
leave
is
an
the
open ending.
opposite of ending. It's never ended. It's from the 1960s.
I know it's never ended, but you know that it's like that was the end of
Moving
the
on.
Daniel Craig saga. Like that was it.
They've picked the new James Bond actor, unless I got a fake Facebook news. I don't know what his name was. A black guy. Let's see if maybe that was fake. Good looking guy. I don't even know who he was.
Pierce Brosnan was the best Bond. I don't know about that.
New James Bond actor.
Wick at some point it gets tough to watch. I agree. You remember when we were there and we saw John Wick 4 in theater, the midnight release?
What? Yes, I remember that.
And we all didn't know really what to say after the movie because we all went in with pretty high expectations, and then
it was poopy.
It was not great.
That fell off. They jumped the shark on that one, to be frank. So Aaron Pierre is who I'm thinking of. I didn't know his name. I don't know what else he's in, but apparently that's the new James Bond, reportedly.
Well, I know nothing about him, and I'll know nothing about the first James Bond when it comes out until I watch it.
They were somebody was talking about Henry Cavill being in the running for that.
I think he's too invested in Warhammer. He's doing a Warhammer series. I think. I hope.
Sean Connery, I might have that vote too. Besides the new ones, the Sean Connery ones were fun.
Just making sure we don't miss any questions.
Reed Boys says, how many movies a month do you actually watch in your theater? Mine kind of swings around, but lately I've been doing 2 or 3 movies a week, really. A couple movies a week is probably a safe bet.
I watched 2 today because I watched 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. I watched quite a few. I typically work in my theater, so I'll have something on while I'm going and then have to pause it. And
that's interesting. I don't watch movies if I'm not dedicated watching them. You do it. You just have them as background.
Depends on the movie. Like if I know I'm not going to be invested in it, I'll turn it on. But if I know I'm going to be invested in it, I'll watch it later with my wife or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty much exclusive, like full attention if I'm watching a movie. Or otherwise I'm not watching a movie. I'll do that with YouTube videos, podcasts, and so forth that I'm interested in. I'll have them running all the time, but not movies for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, it allows me to commit to something like 28 Days Later and watch it until the end. Like I don't have to feel like I dedicated all of that time to something that I'm not really enjoying.
Maybe that's why you're not scared, Ryan. It's because you're not watching the movie. If you're watching the movie, you'd be like me, having heart palpitations.
Not true. I could tell you virtually everything that happens in the movie. So I do pay attention. It's just I'm not Jonathan. Gary Pye says, Ryan, well, I'm not dedicated because I won't swap projectors halfway through the movie.
Yeah, well, we're going to fix that when we do my little show here in the next week or so with you guys. You're going to watch half a movie and with one and half with the other.
So how many movies do you think you watch in a month? I know you said it varies.
I mean, 2 a week is probably as most as I would watch on any regular basis.
Yeah.
Everyone has different tolerances for that. I mean, I got 4 kids, and a lot of times we're watching movies with the family or with a couple of kids. There's a lot of things going on besides the home cinema stuff. So, do the best you can with the time you have.
Yeah. Lately I watched a lot of anime this week. That's what I had primarily on while I was working. I finished Solo Leveling. I enjoyed that. That was fun. But I think I paid more attention to that because it was all in Japanese and I had to read subtitles. So
I would also say that for my purposes, it's not always just like 2 movies. It might be like, hey, a movie and a show or
yeah,
a set of episodes,
yeah.
like
I do a lot of 2-channel, a lot of music listen. You do a lot of music
I
now
do a
too.
lot of music listening too. Although I kinda like I say, it kinda swings back and forth. Right now, I'm watching more movies than I am music probably, but that's
Mhm.
not intentional. It's just I guess I kind of exhausted the playlist stuff. I'm waiting for some new stuff to come out. Now I'll swing over to the videos and watch some new stuff there.
Feel like you've reached the end of the Apple
No, but,
Atmos music
like,
rabbit hole.
you know how they have those kinda curated lists for the different genres and so forth? Like, you get to a point where you've listened to all the ones that are on those lists and they don't.
Jonathan has listened to every Atmos track available.
Oh, no.
It's all been digested. Every playlist, every track, every
No.
album, he's done.
Oh, no.
You
That's
listening,
not true at
Apple?
all. I didn't claim it.
That's what he said. That's what I heard.
Hmm.
That's what I heard. Nothing happened to your theater this week? I mean, you're stacking your 70J1s now. Is this some new revelation you found on
No, I
AVN?
explained that at the beginning of the podcast, so I
I
won't go
know,
over
I'm
that,
just
but
making fun of you.
this is the base module, and then that's the J attachments thing on the bottom. So base module's on top, and the
How many base
look
modules
at
do you
me using
have?
my mouse like you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm moving my mouse to point to it. You can't see that, obviously. Base module's on top,
Uh,
70J1, like the full
oh,
range
I
speakers
was
on the bottom.
wondering why they were so straight.
Yeah, yeah. The base module is just straight,
Oh,
like a regular
this
line
all
rate.
makes sense now. How
But
many base modules do you have? Do you
I
because you
just
don't
bought
use them.
2.
Just
I'm
to
not
test?
you'll have to watch the beginning of the video to get this because I already explained it once, so people are watching are like, "Don't
Oh,
do that
fine,
again, Jonathan." I already talked about
fine,
all this.
fine. I'll watch the beginning of the video, or you can tell me
Please,
offline.
Jonathan, don't repeat
Fine.
yourself.
Okay. Reese Riverson says, "Well, remember, Jonathan's favorite part of the movies are the settings.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
I do not touch. I don't do it. I don't touch it. I don't mess with it. We just roll. We just go.
Several times a movie, I'm in the settings.
All right,
Always,
guys, hold on. I feel like this movie needs more bass.
always. Oh, speaking of F1, interesting. Miguel says, "A little long, but girlfriend loved it." So
It's
you
got
didn't love
Brad
it,
Pitt.
Miguel? Hmm?
It's got Brad Pitt.
Tim was telling me just tonight that he says it's every bit as good as Top Gun: Maverick, and it's
I've
like
heard that.
the feel-good blockbuster of the summer is what he
I've
said.
heard it's supposed to. Everything I have seen about it has been nothing but positives.
And he also said that he and his wife, Crystal, were thinking that it actually was like a little short. Like from his perspective, it could have gone another half hour or something. Even though it's like 2.5 hours long, he liked it that much. Like he was really digging it.
Really?
He said his favorite, and he watches a lot of movies at the actual cinema. He said his favorite movie this year so far.
I don't know how high of a bar that is, though.
I mean, he's watched all the blockbusters that everyone's talking about. Kind of gives us a little feedback in his little text group. This is his favorite.
Okay.
And I think F1 has specific content for the Screen X. So Ryan, maybe we should consider doing that this week instead of watching Iron Giant. Going to watch F1 in the theater with Screen X. Are you familiar with Screen X? It's the one with the 3 screens.
Yeah.
They have specific extra content, like an extra hour of content filmed for this one.
So
That
it's
could
an
be fun.
hour longer, or they just replaced content?
I'm going to make sure I'm not making that up or getting it confused, but I think I saw that. Let me just double check right now. Yeah, like with Top Gun Maverick, they had an extra hour worth of footage
Josh
added to
Damon.
the movie. So not
Josh
everything.
Damon says it's 25 minutes of commercials. They've just put sponsors on the left and right screens.
With Top Gun Maverick, they had an extra hour. So the movie runtime is I don't know what it is, 2 hours. Let's say 2 hours. An hour of it has the content on the left and right screens because they've filmed for that. And so you don't have the content up there the entire time, just when they filmed for it.
Okay. So everybody's saying that it's in chat is F1 was great. Okay. Well, that's cool. Miguel Muniz says F1 trailer on the Apple TV with an iPhone is so cool. It uses the phone vibration for the haptic. It's kind of cool. Gimmicky, but kind of cool.
Here, I don't see a quick Google search for it, but it is made for Screen X. Like it doesn't. I don't see a quick number on this one. I must have got that confused. Another one was talking about an hour.
Hmm. But it is in Screen X, and they have dedicated content for it.
According to the quick search, but it doesn't give me a time that I see. But that would be kind of cool. I mean, like if you've ever played with triple monitors, for instance, on gaming, it's a cool effect. Kind of fisheye, a little bit not perfect, but it's still fun.
Well, I've done that since the hardware and software versions of triple heads and all kinds of stuff. I've done that for a long time.
Oh yeah,
I don't do it anymore.
Infinity and NVIDIA.
Oh
surround.
yeah, oh yeah. Did all that.
Same here.
Where are the Screen X cinemas? AMC 30 has one for 28 now, I guess.
No, I don't think so. I think it's B&B that has the Screen X here in our area. Oh, maybe AMC does somewhere else, but
I think AMC has something.
It's Regal and B&B, as far as I know, that's Screen X.
Oh, I swore AMC had something like that.
They might. I'm not familiar if they do.
I think it's called XL. Or am I thinking of something else? Chad will
XL was Regal.
No, Chad will correct me. They have something.
MW asked earlier, John, are your speakers using compressing drivers? No, they're using 16 tweeters with the Neo. How do you say the magnet that's neodymium or whatever? So they're nice tweeters, and there's 16 of them. So what you can't do with one, you can certainly do with 16.
When one can't do it, just add 15 more. Mm-hmm. Brian Feller says, yes, it's the BB Theaters on 135th and Metcalf.
Yeah. Hey, there's Brian. Brian is making great headway on his 80 12-inch sub wall. He came and picked up 5 subwoofers that I had bought and not used. I'd used one of them. To finish off, he's still capturing his 80. But he's got all the holes cut out, the baffle walls erected. Now he's in the process of, I think he said he's got like maybe 60 of them in there, and he's like soldering the wires together on all these drivers, and that's a big project.
That's huge.
He ordered a couple CVR amps and going to power them all with that, like big beefy amps. Like we're talking 20,000 watt type range.
Look at what you've done to him.
I didn't do it. Well, I might have done it. I actually told him to do this. All right.
I didn't do it. Well, I actually told him.
I stand guilty. I did tell him to do that. I think it's going to be awesome. And I would be surprised if it's not one of the more visceral bass feelings we've ever encountered, because
it'll be great.
80 of those things on a plane are going to be ridiculous.
You thought Snakes on a plane was cool. JBL's on a plane is something
I meant a plane, like a
I know what you meant. I'm just being
80 subs on a plane. Even on an airliner, it'd be a lot of subs. But in a small room, it's going to be ridiculous.
Imagine you got the little screen in front of you, and every seat has a direct attached JBL underneath it.
I like it. Sell it to Southwest, man.
We should come up with they need something to sell because they're going in the toilet.
Yeah.
Jonathan. So we didn't have a topic.
No, but we haven't even got through all the chat unless you have. I have not.
I've been starring stuff. You can read the questions if you want. I'm starring questions. I'm starring them as they come in, as I see them.
Right there. You didn't star that one, and you should have. Yes. You see? The audience is on to you, Ryan.
I mean, you don't get a free pass. I embrace it. I deserve it. I'm not going to walk away from that. I totally deserve it. I had these conversations with my wife. My wife did not know she was getting into this when she married me, and now she's stuck. Better or worse, better or more subwoofers. That's what ended up happening. I deserve it. I won't run away from it. Bring it on. If I'm going to dish it, what I tell my son is, because he's sarcastic, and we've had these conversations because he's to the point now where he dishes it all the time, but he's not very good at taking it. And if you're going to be sarcastic, because sarcastic can burn if you deliver it, but you got to be able to do it correctly, and you got to be able to make fun of yourself. But I keep telling him, if you're going to dish it, you better be able to take it. Like, you've gotta be okay to laugh at yourself, and if somebody's gonna make fun of you, take it. So, if you guys wanna dish it, bring it. I'll make fun of myself. I'm self-deprecating. Just I have fun with it. It won't hurt my feelings. I do deserve it, though. Is there a fan swap for the PowerSoft clone amps? Do you know? I'm sure you could
No.
do it.
You have to be careful with those kinds of things because even when people say you can do it on the forums with certain things, I've had situations where it doesn't work out. So,
Like what?
the iNuke amps that I had, the
Mhm,
first couple that I had, everyone was talking about switching out with like 80 millimeter fans,
mhm,
just from PC chassis type fans. And I
mhm.
swapped them out with what I thought was a decent fan. It was an Intermax, like a premium Intermax fan, and they would power cycle. And when I went back to stock fans, the power cycling quit. Like they were thermally overloading. Because
Mm.
the reason you're switching the fans, of course, is because it's less noise, which means less air is moving, which may or may not work in your
I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean less air is moving. It depends on the fan, but it can, absolutely.
typically does. Slower
Yeah.
RPM, less air movement. I have had I've had multiple successes with it, so I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just
Yeah.
saying be careful with it because you can
Fair
actually
point.
permanently damage stuff with it. Like if you start encountering problems, don't keep pushing it.
But what's
Just
the
swap it out.
fun if you don't know if it'll blow up? It adds to the tension and the anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, what if you're watching 28 Days Later and then you have it in the back of my head, is my amp gonna blow up while I'm watching this? I mean, it just adds to the tension. It adds to the feeling. It adds to the dramaticness if it happens. And then imagine if it's timed when one of your caps explodes when there's a gunshot and the immersion goes through the roof. Be an experience.
Like some of your guests at your home theater.
Hey. Yeah, you're right. That did happen. And they did think they were like, "Oh, that's part of the act." I'm like, "No,
Oh, man.
no." Uh, but yeah, you're absolutely right that you do need to be worrisome and careful about when you're changing that kind of stuff. You need if you're gonna typically the recommendation is if you're gonna lessen noise by slowing the fan's RPM down, you need to get a bigger fan.
And a lot of times on those chassis, of course, that's off the table.
Yeah,
So then you're looking for potentially a deeper fan, like a thicker fan where the blades can grab more air.
potentially.
Sometimes there's room for that in those things. Like if it has a 25 millimeter fan, you could go to 38 or a 44 if
Mhm,
there's depth to allow it. Also, I mean, just there's definitely a difference in quality in fans. I mean, we know this from the
mm,
PC modding hardware things. Like
mhm,
Noctua is notoriously very good fans, and maybe I would have had luck if I'd done Noctua in those early iNukes instead of Intermax. But
mm,
I didn't pursue the Noctua. Some of the
maybe.
people had luck on it, but I just after I had them power cycle a couple times, like I'm not doing this, because
Well,
you're burning your chips up.
you talked about Noctua being super quiet, and they're known as static pressure fans, but look at what the commercial part of the industry does with data centers. I mean, that's almost all Delta, and what is Delta known for?
Oh, those are screaming fans.
Screamers, just super loud. I had some Delta, um, I don't remember their model numbers. I had them for when I was didn't know any better, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and I didn't really know how loud a decibel indication would be. That was a mistake. These fans were 252 cubic feet of air per minute
Yeah,
per fan.
yeah.
They moved so much air.
They'll throw themselves around, won't they?
You could put them upside down and it was like pushing around your own personal hovercraft. They would
Mhm,
hover like that far above the ground.
mhm,
And if you stuck something in there, it was leaving. It
mhm.
would no longer be attached to your body. But they were something like 90 dB a piece
Oh, no.
for a fan.
Oh,
And
no.
they did I think they were like 52 watts per fan. It was insane the amount of I remember turning them on for the first time, and it was I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know how loud this was. I'm like, "Ah, it doesn't matter." And my eyes just kept getting bigger as
As
it
it
kept
sped up?
because the spin up is not short, and it just keeps going and going and going. You're like, "Oh my god. Oh, it's
Yeah.
done. No, it's not. Oh, it's done. No, it's not." And it just keeps getting louder. I had 5 of them, and it was a sight to behold. But it's we talk about there's no replacement for displacement, and those fans are meant for a job, and there's no replacing
Yeah.
what needs to be done. Unfortunately, a byproduct of air movement a lot of times is noise, like you said.
I'm still going to the chat here. A lot of movie recommendations in here is where I'm at.
Oh, you can't use the pinned feature, can you? Can you not use the pinned at the top right of chat?
I can. Yeah. Well, you've got me in here as an admin now, I guess.
Oh,
So we're
yeah.
good.
Just use pinned. Or are you not trusting me because I'm not starting?
No, I just haven't even like found one yet that I'm promoting to the
Mm.
show. Go ahead. You can pull up one that's saved if you got some saved.
So you're saying that, oh, the fan's volume controller. Yeah, kind of. I get your joke. Ha 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 ha. Miguel Muniz, did you answer the question about 132 from Pierce Makers? Did you answer that question?
Yes.
You did. Okay. Paul A asks, hey, Jonathan, can we get your thoughts on the new projector? Likes and dislikes. Any
Yeah,
initial
actually,
thoughts?
Paul, I talked about that last week, so you might just go back and watch the last episode. In short, in just quick summary, super bright, super colorful. Like Paddington Bear looked awesome on it. Jurassic Park looked awesome on it. You watch something like Harry Potter, and you're gonna want it on like the JVC because the black levels are that much different. So yeah, there's positives and negatives. I really like it. I'm enjoying it. Like I'm enjoying it a lot, but it's not perfect. And I don't know that there is a perfect projector until you spend buku dollars.
There's
Because
not.
when I switch back from the Epson QL3000 to the JVC NZ500, it's just like really dim compared to what I'm now used to with the QL3000, and disappointingly dim. But they're both a lot of fun. They both have their own strengths. I did not answer the one from Miguel. The one on the I thought you were talking about a different one. So let's go back to that one, the one you had just mentioned.
132 from Pierce, the makers of the RBH21, or 2 new Slim 24s from Stereo Integrity?
If you only have one sub in your room versus two, I'm always going to choose two because you're going to fill out those modes and nulls that you're going to have from one, and you're going to have a more uniform, consistent bass response seat to seat.
I think it depends, though, on what he's trying to use these subs for. Because if they're doing infrasonic, it's not really going to matter.
That's fair to a degree, but it's gonna still impact your room. It's just not. It's gonna be like
Well, my
broader
point with
areas.
that is it may
Nulls.
be so far below your resonance frequency that you can't do any, and it's the wavelengths are so long. I don't think that necessarily the position will matter as much.
You're right. The distance between the seats won't matter as much on the lowest frequencies, but to your point, it's what is your use case? Are you doing a subsonic bass only like Ryan does with his 50? Or are you doing this as a full range subwoofer and it's your only one versus your only two?
Yeah,
If you're doing a full range, I mean, I'm clearly in the 224s in that choice if it's your only subwoofer.
I
If
agree
you're
with you.
if you're doing like a combination and letting them cover specific frequencies like Ryan does, then sure, that makes sense.
I agree with you though. If you are only going to have one, or sorry, if it's one or the other, I would pick two every time. As long as those slim 24s are able to keep up with the 32. Now, what if there's a huge performance gap?
I mean, if
Would you then
224s
say
can't meet your SPL needs,
pick a different sub?
you need more than I have because 224s would meet my SPL needs. That's a lot of output. I mean, you're talking like 224 should be in the mid 140 dB range. Easy. Easy. Easy.
Yeah, depends on the frequency.
Maybe not at like maybe not at the subsonic or subaudible frequencies, but at the things we can hear, and then you need something else for shakers like we've talked about
Mm-hmm.
for the deep bass, unless you just
Yeah,
go crazy and add a lot of subs.
I agree. I think what long story short, Miguel, is that Jonathan and I, if you're using these for what most people use subwoofers for, which is the entire sub range, multiple subs is going to be better than one. You're going to have too many modal problems with just one sub.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's very true.
Next question.
There's so many movie like recommendations in our chat tonight.
Chat's very active tonight. It's nice. We did that one. Paul Travisano asks, what is your behind-the-screen treatment baffle wall construction? Do you have pictures of yours?
Not really.
I
Mine
do.
is a storage area behind that, like concrete storage and canned foods and Christmas decorations and all kinds of stuff. Like it's a typical
So
basement storage area.
let's do this. I've got a picture of it. Allow this. Use window. So that's mine. That's what it looks like behind the screen. So there's 2 feet or so behind the black swans, the big horns, and then it's probably 2.5 feet. And then you run into the subwoofers, and then the gaps are all filled with big things of roughly 2 feet deep of R38 Pink Fluffy. Non-compacted. It's just sitting up there loose, and then I wrapped everything in bed sheets. So that's the front baffle. I think I would personally do a front baffle. It helps dramatically with bass absorption. I guess depending on what your back wall is. I mean, if the back wall is nothing and bass frequencies, you're just going to go through it. I don't know. What you need is going to be dependent on the room. What led you to where you're at now, Jonathan?
Mine's much simpler. So that's just a storage area back there. I probably have a picture on ABS form somewhere, but there's a storage area behind that screen.
Mm-hmm.
And my arm's in the way. That's terrible. So I have cutouts in basically a drywall, and then there's 3-inch acoustic panels on the wall. And then behind the speakers are basically mounted to kind of like a shelf behind the screen. And behind the speakers, I have rock wool panels that are kind of blocking sound from reverberating around the room. So it, gives you like kind of a backstop to the speakers. But it's truly just open space back there because it's a storage area. How did I get there? I don't know. I mean, I decided in 2014 when I built this room that it would be that orientation and I would take advantage of that space back there. I didn't ever really try any other direction. That was the way it made sense in the room.
Has that baffle been there the entire time since 2014?
Yeah. Okay. Like I started with it and I still have it.
Got it. I think front baffles are important. Baffles are important, front and rear. I have a baffle in my rear too with hanging treatments, and I think those are super important as well for bass management. Good question. Answered that one already. Did that one already. Did that one. ST Kelly says, second question. I recently fitted some transducers and plan to use your 2-hour video to dial them in. He's talking about Jonathan's video. I think you did that with Sheldon.
Yeah, it's like tactile bass setup or something like that is the name of it. We put it in the chat last time. Yes. I mean, that video has both Sheldon and I talking about how we've set up our tactile setup. I mean, just watch it at like 1.2 speed or 1.5 speed or whatever you can absorb and rewind the sections that are important. Like we deliberately, our plan in making that video was like, we get asked all the time on the forums from people who visit our house or from people who have heard that we have good tactile to like give an illustration or a description of how we set it up, write a post, engage in correspondence. And we both just said, like, let's make a video where we talk about everything and give them the tools that they need to do it. And then we can just direct them to the video. So that's the intent. Like I think that's a pretty good video and representation of how we handle it. And it's still up to date as far as that goes. Like it's still accurate.
Good question. And one that comes up often. Adam asks, Ryan, since you deeply care about room acoustics, do you consider your beard to be a diffuser?
Nice.
Or absorber when you're in the room? I am a huge meat bag, so I consider my entire being to be an absorber. I'm not a very good diffuser, though. I get emotionally scarred easy. Everything comes in and it doesn't leave.
Ooh, talking about the next James Bond, I finally got another Christian comment. Idris Elba. That would have been a good James Bond.
You think so?
Maybe he's a little too old now, but he would have been. Yeah, I think so.
I'm not convinced that age necessarily matters. Ooh, camera decided wanted to autofocus on something else. I'm not convinced that age really matters because I thought Daniel Craig got better as he got older, and I didn't really care that he got older as long as the character is portrayed correctly. I'm finding that I don't need nonstop action. Like, look at
Mhm,
what not Walking Dead, John Wick 4 was nonstop action.
mhm,
I need to emotionally relate how
mhm,
John Wick 1 was. There was a
mhm.
lot of action, but there was also a lot of emotional buildup. It was appropriate. I needed the emotional relationship and the foundation. So I don't really
Why do you
care
guys
how old the
like I
character
see
is.
in chat, Anthony says no, you kinda say no. Why do you guys say no?
I'm not saying no. I think it would be fine.
I've only seen him in a couple movies, but I liked him in the ones I've seen him in.
I don't know. I don't know enough about actors to know who would be good or not. So I guess I can't answer that question. Dolby Vision or HDR10? Or do you care?
We did some comparisons on this on your OLEDs before, right?
We did.
And our conclusion was that unless you're doing a side by side, you'd be hard pressed to know which one you're watching, right? Pretty much.
Maybe there would be some content out there that has a difference.
There were differences side by side to a degree,
Yeah,
but they were really pretty slight.
they were.
Now,
They were.
now to be fair, are we talking HDR10 or are we talking HDR10 plus? Because I think the HDR10 plus would be more equitable to Dolby Vision. I think Dolby Vision beats HDR10,
It does.
and I
But
think
even
HDR10 plus
then,
is similar.
I think he's asking, like, does it matter? I don't think it necessarily matters too much. I mean, yes, it matters, but what I don't know, I don't know. So I don't know that I would necessarily care
Did we
too
make
much.
a video on that, or did we just have a podcast where we talked about it? It might have just been a podcast.
I think we just had a podcast where we talked about it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when you're trying to think about which one that would be to look it up and to recommend. But we we definitely spent some time doing that with the OLEDs with two different Panasonic Blu-ray players to like compare and contrast and see which one was which.
Mhm.
And I think that if I remember correctly, there were some scenes that Dolby Vision seemed to do a little bit better job, and there might have
Mhm.
been a scene or two where HDR10 did a little better job, but it
Mm,
was less frequently.
I don't know that that ever happened. It was just the differences were so minor in the
And to put it in
storytelling.
perspective, it might be like, hey, we were like, there's two brick walls, and the lighting is a little bit more beneficial on the Dolby Vision type thing.
Yeah,
Like where if you didn't know which one was playing, you probably wouldn't know which one was playing type thing.
yeah,
Side by side, you can tell subtle differences. By itself, maybe
yeah,
not.
I agree. I don't think people should be caught up in it. It's better, like, it is definitely better, but it's not a thing where I'm not gonna watch something because it's not Dolby Vision. That doesn't bother
Yeah, and
me.
if you're in the projector world, you can't even
You're not
really
gonna get
use
it
Dolby
anyway.
Vision.
You're not gonna get it anyway. Jeff Jabucka, J something, J-Buck. How would you acoustically treat a room, specifically
Say
the
that
front
until you
wall?
get it right. Say it.
No.
And now a segue from our sponsor. Oh man,
Mm. I don't know why people watch us.
I don't either.
How would you acoustically treat a room, specifically the front wall, with a 98-inch TV that is off the front wall about 2 feet? Or would it be best to mount it close to the wall instead?
Some insulation material would be great. I mean, you can cover it with panels so that you have like nice Guilford of Maine type panels, some sort of nice speaker cloth material so that it looks nice. And you could have just a absorption material up there. That'd be a great choice. Um,
Yeah,
Dead front, live back is a good simple model, and you could accomplish that with 2 feet for the
and then
most
if
part.
it's too dead, you can always put in reflective surfaces over top the absorbative surfaces so that they reflect back some of the higher frequencies. Uh, that's a good way, or if you wanna take it simple, just build a bunch of panels and hang them on the wall instead of making the wall the absorber, put the absorbers on it. Depends on how in depth you want it to be. Hanging them on is definitely easier, but it's not as necessarily aesthetically pleasing, and it's not going to be as effective as building the entire wall as acoustic management. Both of us kind of have the more of our entire front walls as management, right? I think.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my room is kind of big enough where I'm not noticing a bunch of reflection off that front wall. But in just general, I think the absorption on the front wall is a good choice. Like in the
Mm-hmm.
different theaters I've been in over the years, it's a good choice.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's going to come with trial and error, Jeff, because you ask 5 different acousticians or people that do this for a living, because they're not all acousticians, how to do it, and you're going to get 5 different answers.
Oh yeah. Somebody said Cinemark has D-Box and it's owned by Mark Cuban. That's the part that's interesting to me. Mark Cuban owns
Cinemark?
Cinemark? I didn't know that.
I don't know what Mark Cuban owns.
A lot of things, apparently, including
Apparently.
proteins.
Ernie Bless says, is there a point where you wouldn't recommend a baffle wall? I'm about to remodel my living room theater, still rocking some old Polk TSI towers, but plan to upgrade in the next few years. 16 by 12. I assume that's 16 feet long, 12 feet wide. No, I think I'd always recommend it if it'll work in the room aesthetically.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm not sure why you wouldn't do that if you have the capability to do it and you're starting from, if you're starting all over. I think it's a good
That's like
choice.
saying, is there a time when you wouldn't acoustically treat the room? No.
Shane Gillis, the next James Bond. That's hilarious. No, Paul, that's a bad choice. Smack his wrist. Bad choice. It's funny, but it's a bad choice.
No, I don't even know who Shane Gillis is.
It's a comedian.
Oh.
Funny, yeah.
What about Chris Rock?
No, not James Bond.
I think, and Ernie, to answer your question, is I would still recommend a front baffle wall in your room.
I feel like I'm so far back on the chat. I've been reading nonstop and I can't catch up. I'm reading too slow, apparently.
Daniel Gallagher says, my room is 10 feet by 13 feet. I have a 98-inch TCL TV with a Tecton Moab towers flanking each side of the TV. Inboard of the towers are 4 RSL 12s. If I add another sub to each rear corner, do I need bass traps? I mean, I think bass traps, real bass traps, what most people think of bass traps are not bass traps at all. They're like mid-frequency absorbers. I don't even think they're doing anything.
They're treble absorbers.
Treble absorbers. They're not even doing anything to the low frequency. I laugh every time I see, like on the acoustic websites where they're selling this stuff. Oh, look at this bass trap, and it's like a tube that's this big. Or
I've seen some of them be flat panels that are like an inch thick.
Yeah,
and they're talking about bass absorption.
This is gonna do nothing.
No,
nothing. To really deal with bass, you need to have dedicated parts of your room to manage it. Like it takes a tremendous amount of space because remember, as the frequencies go down, the wavelengths increase in length. So you start getting 30, 40, 30, 20, 10 hertz and below, and your wavelengths are going 20, 50, 100 feet in length as we get up there. And the amount of absorptive material that you need to take care of those frequencies, if even possible, is tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, I think the simple mechanics, and there's a lot more science in it than just the simple illustration, but the simple mechanic is you need a quarter of the wavelength to penetrate in and a quarter to come back. So that's about half a wavelength to make any kind of noticeable impact attenuation on that frequency. So if you're talking like a 60-foot base wavelength, 80-foot base wavelength, you need like 20 feet of dampening material, which no room has that. They just don't have that.
Well, I mean, you can get it as it comes out and then comes back and then comes back again. It's gonna come down, so
Yeah,
it
but
will help.
if you got an 80-foot length wavelength, like on some of the lower frequencies, you're gonna need 20 foot in and 20
Yeah.
foot back. 20 feet of
Yeah, I
absorption still.
agree. I agree.
Nobody's doing that.
But that's why I mean, I'm not saying I'm getting those wavelengths, but that's why 14 feet of my room is dedicated to dealing with stuff like this.
14
To
feet. Weak. Weak.
I know. I mean, just
Look, these
half my room length.
his room is 10 by 13 and 14 foot of your room is absorption material.
Nothing against you, Daniel. I'm not. That's not a crack at you.
Daniel, you're talking to the wrong people here. We're I don't know.
It takes a tremendous amount of room. Now, the other side of that is you can deal and use things like, to a certain level, art. Direct art is built for things like this. Chernoff waveforming, built for things like this to do wave cancellation. So there are ways to do it without having the space, but that's doing it digitally and not in analog.
Here, I pulled up a website to do a calculator. You can do the same. The sound wavelength calculator. A 20 hertz frequency is 56 foot long. A 15 hertz frequency is 75 foot long. A 10 hertz frequency is 112 foot long. A 5 hertz frequency is 225 foot long. Now, if you
for the most part, you're not gonna treat them. They're just gonna leave your room anyway.
Yeah. So when you're talking about these like bass, a lot of those things that you see that are like tucked in the corner, the little bass traps, they're like 6 inches deep or something, right? So that's the equivalent of 12 inches. If that's half the wavelength, your wavelength could be 24 inches long-ish before you would like stop losing attenuation. So let me see how high of a frequency we have to get to 24 inches. This is rough math. Like, so 500 hertz is 2.5 feet. So you're getting, it's 2.25 feet. It's that bass filter, that's getting to the point where it would start helping. So 500 hertz and above ish ballpark.
Now, but are you saying with this quarter in, quarter out, is that to absorb it completely?
No, that's to like attenuate it by, it's been a while since I looked in this, but like 50% or something. So like it does a noticeable service to the attenuation if it's a quarter in and a quarter out.
Long story short, is you need way more room to deal with bass optimally than you think you do.
So to put a little funny context on that, we just did the math real quick, loose math, not precise math, loose math. People buy those bass traps that are 6 inches deep, thinking like they're absorbing bass. The subwoofer doesn't even play up to 500 hertz, so you're absorbing no bass, zero bass.
You're absorbing female vocal.
It's marketing 101.
It is. I mean, it helps at those frequencies.
Yeah, in the corner, like the whole thing is silly.
I liked how you put it, though. It's a treble absorber. I mean, I don't know what the treble frequencies are, but I thought that was funny. It doesn't absorb what we typically think of as bass because we associate bass with the subwoofers. I'm sure they are absorbing what a studio might consider bass, but it's not what we're going to consider it. So, but I think his question actually is, Jonathan, is if he puts subs in the rear corners, is that going to act as a bass trap? And that would be no. But a benefit that it could be is, here's the position that a lot of people get themselves into, is they start chasing this tactile feel, right? They start chasing the thump and their hair moving and stuff. And to do that, they end up having to push their subs and their house curve way hotter than they should need to, right? And so because of that, they run into a bunch of other, what I'm going to call, not other, but they run into a room that is out of control. That's what I'm going to call it. So by adding more subs, you can tame the frequency response and and get that response that you want at your main listening position and even the seats around it, while not having to run things as hot to get that tactile feel. I see that all the time. I was at a room yesterday where this happened, where the subs were running really hot and he was chasing the tactile feel. We were able to tame things so the volume doesn't have to go as high and get a lot more of that tactile feel back by calibrating, time aligning, and make it so the subs don't fight each other. And it made it a lot better. So they definitely will help. It'll flatten your frequency response and stop you from having to run things as hot, which makes it more enjoyable. What are you smiling at?
Just read some of the comments. Like someone's saying, like, Idris Alba isn't cute enough to be James Bond.
He is to me.
What in the world?
He is to me. Idris, you are to me. That makes sense, Daniel. You can get, art from Dirac will absolutely help. Optimizer from Chernoff will absolutely help. Calibrating properly, time aligning, absolutely help. More subwoofers, absolutely help. But those things outside of art and optimizer are not going to cancel waves or remove waves from the room. You need analog treatments to do that.
All right. So while we're talking about acoustic stuff, Blood Carver says the only acoustician worth his salt is Anthony Gramani. The rest of them, ...
Is Anthony a real? I think he's a real acoustician.
By degree or by
degree?
I don't know. I don't know what his heritage is there.
He does know his stuff, though. There are a few of them.
I pulled this up because I'm not going to agree with it. I don't have a problem with what Anthony Gramani does, but there's a lot of professionals in the industry that don't do the same thing. And like we've talked about before, there's a subjective flavor or preference that goes along with this stuff where it's okay that they don't agree. They're going to be chasing a little bit different sound and different functionality. Gramani did something at M-Wave and did a good job. Like his room was well done. He handed out free 1 hour session for like an acoustic discussion, basically.
I didn't know he did that.
He did. Tim took advantage of it. Actually, Tim was one of the winners, and bought some panels from him. Like, I'm not saying anything bad about Gramani at all, but I don't think that you can say that the rest of them are bad. For instance, Frontier Acoustics designed some of the best home theaters I've experienced. And that's not Gramani Association. Like, they did a good job too. So, like, yeah, there's other choices.
Well, and Revibe Creative brings up a good point that the industry is far bigger than just the residential stuff. A lot of the acousticians are in the pro space. So there's good ones out there. It's not just restricted to Anthony. Anthony's a great guy. He knows his stuff, but there are good ones out there for sure.
Some of these comments are good. We got a super chat in here. We need to address that before.
We did. Go ahead.
Thank you, Gabe. Appreciate that. Hey, guys, I have two 18s up front, two 12s in the back, and a 15 for near field. When run on Odyssey, do I disable the near field and EQ it after, or do I leave it alone and have Odyssey calibrated in? Love what you do. So, Gabe, I'm assuming then if you're asking if you can leave it in, that you have an AVR with Odyssey that has 3 or 4 banks that you can do this with. In that case, I would leave it in so that you get the time alignment correct. And then you can actually just curtain it with your phone app for $20. You can curtain it so it doesn't do anything to the channel that's near field. And that's my preference, is that there's no PEQ applied to near field. And also, I had heard, and I checked it out, and it's true, the Odyssey X app that used to be $200 is now free on the Microsoft Store. Now, I haven't actually used it to calibrate my system, so I don't know if there's some sort of like gotcha that pops up, but you can download it for free. There's no purchase price on the Windows Store. So
really,
I downloaded it. I haven't yet rerun my EQ to play with it, but it didn't.
Jonathan means by download is he stole it.
No, Windows Store, the Microsoft Windows Store, it's free on there. Like, you just click get and it downloads. And I think there used to be a price associated with it. And someone on our podcast, I mean, it wasn't through me. Someone on the podcast said, "Hey, now it's free." And
so there was a $20 app, and then there was a $200 program.
The $200 program is apparently free now.
Interesting.
Huh. I mean, unless, and like I said, it could be like you run it and you get in there and there's some sort of time window, or there's some sort of like pop-up, hey, if you want to use this, pay. But that's not what the guy in the chat said, and that's not what my experience was downloading it, at least the initial download. So we'll
Because
see.
when I've done it in the past, when you're those $200 or more licenses, you have to associate them with an AVR. Maybe they're not doing that anymore, though. I don't know. Haven't done one in a couple years, so not sure.
I wonder if it changed when
Dirac?
Massimo bought it, or maybe even competition with Dirac. But like with the changeover that they
Yeah,
went,
maybe.
or even with the new Samsung, since they own it now, potentially. Maybe there's something that changed with the licensing.
That is true. That's a good point. I don't know.
So did we answer his question? We did. Okay. Thanks, Gabe.
Suspect says free to download, pay to implement.
It could be. I mean, I just haven't
It
run
could
all
be.
into it, but I'll let you know when I do. Well, here, Revibe's saying the same thing, right? That it's free now.
Oh, well, good to know.
Okay, still scrolling down. You got more in the queue? More in the hopper?
I'm just letting you catch up.
You're reading and starring and managing the comments faster than I'm reading them.
I feel like I'm the kid, like the friend that's running in front of you, and then I stop and wait for you, and then I run in front of you again, then I stop and wait for you, and then I run in front. A big part of that is because I streamed forever, so I'm used to doing all this. Anthony says the $200 app is a game changer.
Well,
it does allow you more granular control.
It's not $200 anymore, potentially.
I don't. Maybe
that's what we're
Revibe says it isn't. It's free now, supposedly.
Okay, well, I'm caught up on all the chat now, and if you are caught up on the pinned ones, then we're caught up.
Yeah, go ahead and read some questions.
Okay, so here's the next one that's pinned. Would you mix two subs like both 12-inch but different companies, or just get two that go up and down to the same hertz? The alignment's more important than the company manufacturer, especially if you're talking sealed. So you can mix sealed from different manufacturers all day long without too much trouble, unless they implement some sort of like HPF that has any kind of phase issue.
Yeah, unless phase starts getting really weird.
But if they're just true sealed subs and you're not doing a phase implementation, a high pass filter at the bottom, it should be fine. You shouldn't be doing a high pass filter on a sealed sub for the most part. If you're trying to mix ported and sealed, you're going to have potential issues to look through, not insurmountable, but you should go on the forum and figure out which high pass filter you need to do for your particular engagement. And then, yes, the port tune is important. I don't think it has to be exactly like if you had one that did 18 hertz and one that did 16 hertz, it's not going to be the end of the world. If you had one that did 30 hertz and one that did 15 hertz, that's a bad choice. So you wouldn't want to do something that disparate, because anything between those two ports is out of phase. So if you have like an inexpensive sub that's tuned to 30 hertz and you have an expensive sub that's tuned to 15 hertz, the 15 to 30 hertz is actually, if you measured it out, is typically going to be like reduced in volume, because your subwoofers are going to be fighting, because the HPF on the 30 hertz one is actually in conflict. It's out of phase with the 15 to 30 hertz from the big one. So not a good choice in that realm. A hertz or two, you're not really going to notice the difference. Like 16 and 18 hertz type tuning for ported, it doesn't really matter.
Long story short, if you can, identical subs. If you can't, different sealed subs, as long as they're remotely close in the same capability. Ported can get really weird, even if it's ported with ported, if they're not the same. But just as Jonathan said, I agree. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Next one. All right, here we go. I don't know what he's asking here. Daniel Gallagher, with 10 by 13 room, is it possible to create any reverberation?
Yes.
What is he asking?
I don't know. We could put the 50 in it and make the room fall down. Yeah, you can absolutely do it. The closer your room is to a square, the worse typically it's going to be. Larger rooms have less problems with modes and reflections and all different kinds of stuff. You can also put speakers further away. Advantage to having speakers further away is your SPL fall off. Is easiest way to think of it is every doubling of distance, you lose 6 dB. It's not exactly that, but every doubling, you're losing 6 dB. So if the speaker's far enough away, you can drastically increase your seat-to-seat consistency. But with your question of a room of 10 to 13 feet, is it possible to create any reverberation? I'm assuming he's talking about like tactile feel from subs and it's easier in a small room.
That word's throwing me off. I do pro audio stuff like mixing, and when you turn on reverb, that's very
Wah,
specific,
wah, wah, wah,
very
wah.
specific
That's all I'm
word.
imagining it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I understand the question.
But let's
Daniel, if you're
say,
here, reword your question.
okay. All right. Fair enough. Next question. I'm watching for his.
What do you guys think about calibration projectors with consumer grade hardware? C6, HDR 5000, G1 generator, and Kalman Home for $650 as a bundle, or go by eye with a Spears and Munsell disc? This is more your alley than mine, and maybe even Bob's alley than either one of us potentially.
The danger for doing this with consumer grade hardware is laser wavelengths are getting so small that consumer hardware has a hard time reading them. So you can measure, it's probably not going to be right. So I would say, in my personal opinion, it's either take that $650 and put it towards a professional calibration, or do it by eye.
I have an interesting observation that I think you'll agree with. When we were comparing the flagship Sony Bravia 9 and the Epson QL7000, and we used the Jetty to color calibrate them to the individual percentage point, they look different side by side. So even with a $10,000 Jetty, isn't that the ballpark of that thing?
Yeah.
Even with a $10,000 Jetty, the wavelength is.
I mean, a big part of that can be brightness and some other stuff, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, the white color space looked objectively different to our eyes, to three people's eyes that were doing this. So I don't know what to make of that. But my point is that you don't have to limit that problem you're talking about to just the $650 equipment.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust it to the $650 equipment. I'm not smart enough to talk about this outside of what I just told you.
Did you
Right?
guys have a podcast on AV Experience? I'm sorry, on ABS Forum that was. Are you going to do one with a
We did.
calibrator?
So we had Jason on. We had Jason Dustle,
I haven't
formerly
listened to
from
that one
AV
yet.
Pro Edge and Meridio. Now he's with Mad VR. And we talked about some of this stuff. Like we talked about what all of the specific terms are for on a TV. Like what is white balance? What is black balance? What is saturation? Or what is white level and black level? What is saturation? What is contrast? What is sharpening doing? What is your gamma? What is SDR? Why is HDR important? We talked about all of this and the history of like CRT TVs going to plasma, going to LCD, LED, OLED, and on up. And it's 2 videos, and I think it's interesting. Jason
But
does a
not
really good
but not
job
into
of
this level,
explaining it.
but not into the calibration side as far as the different equipment?
Not to the different equipment, but we talk about the color space, and we talk a little bit about like luminance, because the color space is not 2-dimensional; it's actually 3-dimensional, and luminance is the back in needing light to get to certain colors. And it doesn't talk about wavelengths or anything. We may do that later if people have an interest in it, but no, we didn't talk about the calibration point of it. I'm going to stand by my thing of pay somebody to do it.
So the Spears and Munsell, and maybe this is the same problem. I in the last couple weeks was using the disc. It's actually on my desk right here. The disc comes loaded with a blue filter. No, I guess it's the other copy here. A blue filter that you can like look through and try to get your tint correct. And I used that on the QL3000, and it set my. I had to set my tint all the way down to 43, just following like the disc guide. And when I was watching regular content, I felt like that didn't look right. So that's probably another thing that we're talking about with this like laser light spectrum being different than traditional displays. It's kind of throwing off the tool
I don't
set.
know, maybe. There's a lot of variables that go into that. My point of all of that and what I've come to realize is I don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? I'm an enthusiast. I like learning all this stuff, but I would rather pay and watch somebody do it and learn from them and ask the questions of, hey, why do I need this? Do I need this? Could I do this? And then if they say, yeah, then I'm good to go in the future. But I don't like now taking the leap and not knowing where I'm going to end up, because then you don't know if it's right. Like you don't know what is good and what is not, because what you don't know, you don't know. We say that all the time. So in my opinion, take the $650 and pay a calibrator. It'll go further or not, depending on where you live and who's close and who's taking a trip through your area. If you're in Florida, you can be lucky. There's a couple guys down there. That's what I would do.
Okay. I have an AVM 90 with ARC, Daniel says, just trying to see how to achieve the best bass within my limitations. Is this regarding to the question where they had the 3 different banks? Was it good to run the near field? Is that the same gentleman?
This is the same guy that asked about reverberation.
Oh.
And he clarified on reverberation, and he says, by reverberation, trying to make the room sound larger than it is. I'm still not sure.
That technology doesn't really exist like it does with Pro Audio. I mean, like, I know what he's talking about, I think, in the sense that, like, if I take my Mackie mixing board or any of the mixing boards, there's like a reverb function that kind of, you can make it sound like a hall or a chamber, you know, like of different sizes and so forth. And it adds kind of an echoey feature to the speakers, but that's not really a feature set on consumer AVRs. The surround codecs, the up mixers do a little bit of that, like DTS Neural X and Dolby Surround. They'll add a little bit of like echoiness to it potentially.
Yeah, but I don't know that they're going to do anything with the bass frequencies, are they?
No, I don't think so. I don't think
know.
so. And they
Never
have,
thought about
I mean,
that.
depending on what, I don't know what Anthem's different codecs are for the up mixers, but like Onkyo and Denon and Marantz and so forth, Denon more so than Marantz, have some different ones you can choose that are kind of like virtual or the different types of names that have like kind of spatial effects. It's not, none of it's any good. In my opinion, anything outside of Dolby Surround or DTS Neural X is not, they're not even worth having on the receivers, in my opinion, or experience.
I think a lot of that stuff is gimmicky.
I agree.
Even the pro stuff, I saw some acoustics things that they were doing at ISE. I think it's cool, the concept, but when are you going to use that? When am I going to make my room, unless I'm trying to showcase something to somebody as a, this is what it'll sound like in your room. Why would I want to make my room sound different? I don't know. The idea of listening to a string quartet and then artificially making it sound like it's in a cathedral doesn't make sense to me, but maybe I'm not the target market.
I have a feeling that maybe he's dabbled in Pro Audio a little bit before, maybe even just with his sound card, if he's got some sort of PC software that he can play with that. And maybe he's kind of seeking just to have that little bit of thing. But I don't think you're going to get that out of consumer AVR. It's going to be something you're going to have to feed into it. Mm-hmm. And it does have its purposes. I mean, like on the Allen and Heath mixer board at church, sometimes when the piano will play, I'll add a little bit of reverb to that to make the piano sound like it's in a bigger room, and it fills it out and it sounds nice. But that's just not a feature. Unless Anthem's doing something I'm not aware of at all, it's not a feature on consumer AVR stuff.
He adds some more. He says the AVM 90 with ARC referred to subs in corners to eliminate the need for traps. I think that really just comes down to you're in more control over the response in the room. So your room's not as out of control.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of strange that they would choose corners, because like the Harman white papers would say mid-wall or 2/3 point instead of corners if you have 4 subs.
Well, they may say corners because you're able to corner load them, so you're able to get a lot more gain out of them, especially in the lower frequencies. You can really boost your house curve corner loading them. So if they think their target market is maybe using 8, 10, 12-inch subs, that can be hugely beneficial. You're able to get a lot more bang for your buck that way. Daniel, I still don't think that removes the need for acoustic treatments. Just remember what we talked about earlier, though, that what they're probably referring to as a bass trap is not a bass trap. Like it's treble trap, as Jonathan said. It's a TT.
Mid-range trap.
Squared. So I think 4 in the corners will absolutely be beneficial, but you're still going to want acoustic treatments in the room. You still want to treat bass if you can.
Ready to move on?
Yeah.
How far from a TV?
Hold on. We got to go back. He added something else.
Okay.
He said they talk about using diffusers to make the room sound larger. Yes. Diffusers can make things sound more diffused. They will spread out sound so that it doesn't sound as directive, and it'll take this to simplify this. Think of it as 2-channel music, and I've got Adele singing right here. Okay. If I diffuse her, she may get bigger. So you can make things sound bigger. I wouldn't really call it the room sound bigger, like the room sounds like it's physically bigger. It's more that imaging and spaciousness from the audio can sound like it's more enveloping, is what I'll say. That's absolutely true with how I explained it. I don't think it'll make the room sound bigger. It'll sound more enveloping.
How far from a TV do you put your speakers with your sub on the side? Ben Gould asks. Golden triangle, man, if you can. That's kind of the best way to put your speakers, most people would say.
Do you think that's a good way to just leave it, though?
What do you mean? I think it's a great choice if you have the capability, if your room lets you. Probably going to have plenty of room from a TV unless you got a monster TV to do a golden triangle. So that basically means, like, let's say you had a 65-inch TV, you're not going to put your speakers up against the TV because it'd be too narrow unless you sit very close.
Mm-hmm.
A golden triangle means like an equilateral triangle is kind of like typically recommended as far as a stereophile best way to make stereo sound the richest.
I think it's a great way to start, but it may not be advantageous with other walls or anything like that.
Sure.
I mean, it's a good starting place for sure. I agree.
Right. So that might mean, depending on the size of your TV, that your speakers are not up against the TV. And your subwoofer placement actually should be based on your measurements rather than just what's cosmetically there if you care, especially if you're only running one or two.
Mm-hmm.
But I get that sometimes it's better just to have it like aesthetically, put it right next to the towers.
Yep.
I get that.
Yep. A lot of times putting your speakers right next to a TV cabinet in the TV is not ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Bad. And if you put the speakers out and do the golden triangle, if the imaging is correct, it's still going to sound like it's coming from the middle.
Mm-hmm. And you might consider it depends on how new you are here, Ben Gould. I think I've seen your name on here, so you're not fresh off the boat. But if you are fresh off the boat and you're placing your speakers wide, you probably want to, with most speakers, do some toe in, which just means angling your speakers to some greater or lesser degree at your main listening position. So you don't have them just straight, aiming at the back of the room if you're in the middle of the room, because you'll get off-axis sound, which changes the frequency response. It's no longer flat like it would be if you aimed it towards yourself. So that's like beginner stuff, but our audience is all over the board, so make sure we know.
If your speakers have clipple data on them, you can look at the dispersion plots and see how the energy is coming out from the speaker, and that can also give you an indication of what your toe angle needs to be. Then you also want to look at your sound power and reflections so that you can tell, how do I need to treat my first reflection points and my other reflection points in the room, because how different is that from the on-axis sound that's coming out of the speaker? That can all be hugely beneficial for figuring out how the speaker needs to be placed.
Dan Jones asks, how much of your infrasonics, meaning like how much tactile feel below 20 hertz where we humans stop hearing ish, are your near fields? I only ask because I have 4 18-inch Pro audio subs now, but they don't do well below 35 hertz. I want to add near fields, probably 2 Ultimax 18s. What can I expect? Dan, if you bring those 18s up, the sealed near field 18s to your chair, you're going to expect a dramatic difference, a dramatic increase in bass. And I've said this before on the podcast, and I'll repeat it now because it's applicable. You know that I have 8 18s for the longest time. At one point, I had all 8 up on the front wall, and I was just experimenting. I put one behind my main chair, and I realized that one behind my main chair had more tactile feeling than 8 of them up front, and more tactile than the 7 up front. So if I turned off the front 7, I left the 1, I had more tactile feel from one near field 18 than I did from the front 7. So absolutely, you're going to get a lot more feel from that. And it's particularly important because it's frequencies you can't hear. And unless you have a whole lot of subs that are sealed and in your room, you're probably not filling the airspace with them. And you're certainly not with Pro Audio subs. So not only are you not getting that that low frequency feel because your pro audio subs can't do it. But even if they could do it, because they're far away, you have to have so many of them to fill the airspace with that the near field overcomes that. You just get that feel, that physical feel off the driver, and it's immense difference, like immense difference. You'll need to have a different time alignment, so you'll need to look into that. You can't just run it at the same time alignment, like you can't Y split off where your 18s are up front. That won't work. But if you do the time alignment right, like if you put your 418s that are in the front on subwoofer output 1, for instance, and make them kind of equidistant from the main listening position, and put your 2 near field on subwoofer output 2, most receivers will have 2 subwoofer outputs. That's good enough. You'll really
You could if you have a phase dial and it's not just 0 and 180. You could use phase in order to change your timing.
Yeah, but if he's asking these kind of questions, he probably doesn't have that knowledge. But yes, you can. Phase is nothing more than distance, effectively. So, yeah. At this case, especially if you're kind of green in the hobby, let your AVR do the calculations as far as your distances and so forth. And then I would recommend that you turn off the EQ on that subwoofer output 2 that's feeding the near fields, if that's what you're feeding with, because you don't want parametric EQ on the near field. You want the raw response that the subwoofer excursion increases as it goes down and doesn't have any like extra boosts or cuts that would make that movement feel abnormal, because the near field is really all about the feel.
Very true.
Okay, so you had a couple more in here. Anyone see that MFK theater? That is the most incredible do-it-yourself theater I've ever seen. I'm very curious how it turns out sound-wise. Yes, Monty has been to my theater actually, and his theater is going to be amazing. I haven't checked it out real recently, but he's the one that has like the full-size CBT line arrays that are just enormous. Enormous.
I haven't seen this.
And he has a bunch of 18s in the ceiling and an infinite baffle. Everything's custom do it yourself. It's a remarkable theater. He's been working on it for a few years. Like it's a good one to check out. He has a YouTube channel, so you can check it out. Look at that for a YouTube search. Okay, so what are your opinions on AMT tweeters? RBH uses Aurum Cantus tweeters, but not sure why or how they're different than other types. I hear they're easier on the ears over long sessions. Any familiarity? Not by me. Do you have familiarity there?
With AMTs, Martin Logan uses AMTs. Wisdom uses AMTs. A lot of companies use AMTs. It's just different. Certain AMTs, the reason you may think that they're easier on the ears is a lot of times AMTs, because they have a much larger surface area, can generate, depending on the AMT, the driver itself, and a bunch of other factors, can generate less distortion. They can get super loud. Alcons uses ribbons. Sometimes AMT is used interchangeably with ribbon. So I'm going to talk about ribbons. Alcons uses them. Martin Logan uses them. Wisdom uses them. Golden, or who's the Golden
Ears?
Golden Ears uses them. Emotiva. There's a bunch of companies that use ribbon tweeters. They're just like soft ohms or compression drivers. There's good ones and there's bad ones. There's ones that'll hurt your ears and there's ones that won't. It just depends.
I've heard a lot of those brands at shows, but I've never had any AMTs in my hands to play with, I don't think, over all the years.
I wouldn't say they're universally easy on the ears. They're just different type of tweeter. Always depends on the implementation. Leave it at that. I like them. Certain ones.
All right. What do you think about winding this down? It's been a couple hours. We're slowing on the questions.
At the end?
I think so.
JMax asks, Jonathan, on your iNuke amps, do you have it set to a Butterworth 12?
I don't remember. So I'm not using a high pass filter at all. I'm using a boost filter, a shell filter, and I don't remember if it's. I think it's I don't know. Let me look. I think I have it screenshotted and saved on my drive. Just a second, and I'll tell you.
I don't think you're using a.
I'm not using a high pass filter, but you can use a Butterworth going either way, I think. Let's see.
Skylake, we're definitely not going to do another hour. Jonathan's got carpet to clean.
The joke that just keeps on giving.
It'll never die. It'll never die.
Let's see here. Drivers, maybe? I share all this stuff in detail in my tactile bass setup video that we were talking about earlier in the podcast, like with very specifics on how to run the amps and how I do it anyway. And so does Sheldon, has all his specifics. So if you're really curious and want the full skinny, that's where to go. But I should have it in here. Go on to the next question. I'll come back when I find the document.
Ernie Bless asked, might be a little late for the discussion, but curious your two's experience with MSO. Multi-sub optimization.
I haven't used it at all. I've heard good things about it. I've never used it.
I've never used MSO specifically, but I do try and calibrate the subs before presenting them to any type of auto EQ or room EQ. Person to ask about MSO would be Mark. Is it Giovanetti?
Yes.
What's his name on AVS? Do you remember?
Geomania? Geomania. Giomania.
He'd be a good resource to ask about MSO. He's used it pretty extensively in his room. And I think there's actually an AVS thread on MSO.
Yes, there is. It's very extensive.
Be a better resource than either of ours experience. I'd recommend you take a look at that. Burger Iverson asks, guys, I'm new to the hobby and I'm building a 744 Dolby Atmos. Where I live, I can buy 412 subwoofers, but all of them are different brands like JMO, Dantex, JBL. Is this not going to work?
I don't think that you probably want to pursue that type of driver for home cinema.
Those are JBL all may be okay, depending on which 12 it is. They can be crap.
Most of those consumer things like that, even if they're sealed in the 12-inch size from those major retailers, are not very capable subwoofers. They're going to trail off about 25 hertz or even 30 hertz. Most of them. You can get ones that go to 20 hertz. They're not bad, but they're not going to be output monsters by any stretch.
Well, I wouldn't really consider most 12-inch subs output monsters to begin with. 20 hertz for a 12-inch would be great, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, give us specific model numbers, if you will, sir, and we'll try to look them up and see what we think. But just in general life experiences with some of those brands, they're not monsters. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's all you need.
Thanks so much for the super chat, Burger. Much appreciated. Bergier, give me a pronunciation for a dumb American, and I'll work on your name. Ryan B asked, near field and seat and back of chair, or is just one enough? The true way, Ryan, is to embrace the carp on the AVS. You go direct attach, underneath and back, and you do floating boss platform and tactile transducers.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a rabbit hole, right? How deep do you want to go? I think the majority of the output can be safely said that the near field is really like the best option.
Yes.
Back of the chair adds a little bit, below the chair adds a little bit, like it all adds a little bit. It becomes more complicated with getting the timing right, which you can absolutely do. But the near field gets you a good portion of the way there, and it's the super simple solution because the timing's not super critical. Like the AVR's setting is enough. Once you start adding in multiple devices, you're trying to narrow the timing down to like 100th of a millisecond to feel accurate, and that's DSP work. You're not doing that with just your AVR anymore. It's too coarse of settings in the AVR to get multiple transducers on the same chair to work together. I can't find this document. I know I have it, but I don't know where it is off the top of my head for my iNuke. I could just hook up a USB device and look at it.
That'd be too easy.
It'd be faster than at this point. Found it. Right after I said I couldn't find it. So here it is.
What was the last place you looked?
I have a it's not a Butterworth. It's a low shelf 12 is what the Behringer Inuk calls it. And it's 9 dB a boost for me in my room on that setting. Here, I can share my screen real quick since he asked specifically, and I'll just talk through my settings. I have the same setting on every amp on every sub. So share screen, and then we'll go to this document, entire screen, and we'll just open the document. Tell me if you can see it, Ryan.
It's a little small.
It's too small?
Try this. And then let me do this. There you go.
Okay, so this is just the init page. I've saved a setting. I have a limiter set up, and apparently if you don't, here it is. So I have a limiter engaged on the amps just to keep them from power cycling in any situation. It's limiting it to 1600 watts at 4 ohm. If you don't put your limiter in on the NX amps or the Inuk amps and you just let them on full bore and you turn it up to clip lights, you will power cycle the amps. This little 3 dB clip light means they will never power cycle, ever. You can't get them to power cycle because it will limit it before it does that thermal stuff. So that's simple. You just choose your ohm and you just peak limit it by a little bit. The amps aren't even really good for what they say they're good for. Like if you had this all the way up, the extra 3 dB is like 3,200 watts or something. Those Inuks won't do 3,200 watts per channel. They will do this. They will do this, and I've been tested to do this, and it keeps them from power cycling. So that's all that. No settings here. This is all turned off for the filter crossover. So you can see these tabs across the top. This is the filter crossover, all blank. This is the parametric EQ. So I'm not doing any parametric EQ on anything. It's just the flatness of my frequency response is by quantity. I have 11/18s and before that 8, and that makes a pretty smooth response just with quantity. But I do apply a shelf filter of 9 dB. It's a LS12, a low shelf 12, at 9 dB at the 20 hertz. So it's just at that octave from say 20 hertz and down, it's raising at 9 dB. dB is a doubling of frequency. So 20 to 40 is a dB, 20 to 10 is a dB, 10 to 20, I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. 10 to 20 is an octave, 20 to 40 is an octave, 40 to 80 is an octave. That's how that works as far as the octaves go. And then I have a tiny bit of dynamic EQ, which is probably very subtle. I've turned it off and turned it on, and I like it better on, so I've left it there. I've played with it a few times over the years. In fact, recently, when I got that third row, I decided to play with it again. I raised it to 4.5 dB just to see if I liked it better, and I didn't. So I went back to 3. I think I might have left it at 3.5 most recently, but this is just another low shelf filter, and it's 3 dB gain at 20 hertz. So just at lower frequencies, it just gives me a little extra bass, and then it's shaved off to where it's not doing anything as you near reference. So that is my setting that's applied to all 11 of my 18s. Okay, stop the screen share.
There you go.
Okay, where are we at here? I'm trying to catch back up.
I don't think there's any more questions.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So this question is absolutely valid, and we're all slaves to our own experience and our own like recent memory. Kelly, this is extremely fair, saying that room size matters more than you guys mentioned when giving people's own opinions on subwoofers. Yes, 4 12-inch subwoofers in a small room will give more performance, without a doubt, than in a large room. That's not to say that you wouldn't benefit, Kelly, from having 4 18s in that same room if you like bass. I mean, you clearly would. But yes, that's a fair comment, and we would both agree with you there. Okay, so is that about wrapping it up here at this point, Ryan?
I think so.
Don't want to end it on kind of a sour note from the comments.
I already responded to it. It's fine.
Okay.
I won't I haven't talked about that. I won't talk about it. There's no point. So it's all good.
I'm gonna set in here that tactile bass video in the comments that we've referenced several times in here for anyone that wants to kind of just like learn more about how we had done it. Oh, it's coming live here. Let me do a share, and let's throw that in the comments. Copy. All right. So if you can click on the comment, there it is in the live comments. If you can't click on the comments, you can just search for tactile bass setup by my channel. And there's a lot of good information in there. All right. So with that, call it a night.
Yeah. We'll call it a night. Did we decide on a movie?
We didn't yet. Hey, what do you think about going to see F1 together? We could go watch it together on a Screen X. That'd be fun. You want to do that? No, he's distracted. Got him hot and bothered.
Let me look at my schedule. I got to see if that'll even work. You wanted to do it next week?
Sure. Anytime, really.
Yeah, I think I can do that. We just need to find a day.
I think that'd be a fun one.
Oh, is that the right day? Yeah. Yeah, that should work. Just need to find a day. We can make that happen.
All right, so that's it, chat. We're going to watch F1 for a moment.
We're going to see F1. I haven't been to a movie theater since I saw John Wick 4. So we're going to see what happens. Okay, F1. Anything else?
That's it for me. Thanks for joining, guys. Appreciate your coming together and watching us each week. It's nice. It's fun.
I just like sharing the space. However it is. I'm just excited that people get to enjoy their spaces a little bit more. That's all.
Yeah, and you know, we to put a little bit extra on that. Some of you guys have reached out to us over the course of the last year or so and said, "Hey, I watch your YouTube videos. I'd like to come visit your space if it's cool." And we say, and for most part, we just say it's cool. Like, come check us out. Like, both Ryan and I would be happy to show our space. So if you're ever in the Kansas City area, look us up, guys.
We have somebody coming tomorrow. I had somebody today. I mean,
yeah, I have someone tomorrow too.
I think it's usually once a week or every other week. I have somebody.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they do hit both of our spots, which is funny.
They do. Well, you go to Jonathan's for a free speaker.
No, I'm not giving them away.
Okay. Well, guys, have a safe weekend. Sorry, I got a little distracted at the end there. I blame Haley. But have a safe weekend. July 4th is coming up. Don't do anything dumb. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Go enjoy F1. Hopefully it'll be good. Jonathan and I will be back next week to tell you how much we hated it. It'll probably scare Jonathan. He's afraid of V12 and V10 engines, so he'll be under his seat. Be like, I can't take it. Eventually he'll have his phone like this.
Do we want to announce it on? That'd be fun. Let's announce it on the KC forum, unless you don't want to. But we can announce on the KC forum and just get a group to go.
I thought we were going on a date.
I'm not dating you.
Yeah, it's fine. We can announce it on the Kansas City.
All right, let's figure out a date that works for both of us, and then we'll announce it.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Talk to you.